Tonight's show and topic of discussion do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Spaced Out Radio, SOR Media, or its hosts. Listener discretion is advised. Here at Spaced Out Radio, we are about to take you higher. Broadcasting from the Rocky Mountains of Colorado to you listening around the world. Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays on Spaced Out Radio. You can follow Tessa on our Facebook page at Spaced Out Radio, on Twitter at TessaTNT, and you can subscribe to her YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio for our archives. Now broadcasting from our Mile High Radio Clubhouse on Spaced Out Saturdays with your host, Tessa N Thomas.
Good evening, Spaced Out Radio. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 419.9 in colorful Colorado. It is Saturday, January 12th, Sunday, January 13th for those of you on the East Coast and beyond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you guys had a rockin' Saturday and an awesome evening. I am your host, TessaTNT, and I am live tonight broadcasting from beautiful Fylth, Colorado. We are 150,000 strong nightly on Spaced Out Radio Network, spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, 99.1 FM, WQEE, Noonan, Georgia, 107.7 FM, UPRN in Louisiana, Revolution Radio, as well as Deep Talk Radio, which you can find at deeptalkradio.com. Don't forget to head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, where you can peruse the Spaced Out Radio store, which is now open. You can get your socks and beach towels and hoodies and all kinds of good stuff there. And don't forget to read the Encounter Online, dealing with everything strange, paranormal, and odd. So tonight, I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight, we are joined by Matt deMille. And I'm going to read his intro as far as, he's been on a couple times, but in case you guys haven't met him yet, Matt deMille is half alien Montauk Frankenfreak from Hollywood, blood of Cecil B., father of Hollywood, master degree in AFI 2010, the Harvard of Hollywood, like Cecil B., a brother Freemason. Fiancé worked at Disneyland, was going to be married there, but Hollywood dark forces had other plans. He's a Montauk survivor. Stranger things happened for real in 1983 to him. Before film, self-published RPGs, and wears many geek badges. Family history of paranormal occurrences, and quite a tale to be told of Trump and time travel. He's a messenger, warning, a grim one, and only half human physically and psychologically. He's not the nicest person in the world, but he doesn't pretend to be anything other than what he is. He's a messenger, telling the truth as he knows it, and will speak to whomever may listen. And before I have him come on, I have to apologize to you guys. We had to do an upgrade on our Skype, and then it didn't want to work as far as audio goes, so sorry for the late start, but we're here. And welcome, Matt. I'm so glad you can make it back again.
Thank you for having me back a third time.
Yeah.
Bold before. You're boldly going where no program has gone before.
I love having you on. I find you to be very interesting and take value in a lot of the things you have to say.
I appreciate that. I really do. I don't mean to understate it, but I have to keep my emotions a little repressed. But when I hear so many other people out there waste so much time yik-yakking about nothing, to have the chance to be heard, I truly do appreciate it. I truly do thank you. And everyone listening, thank you for affording me your time.
So is there anything I missed with your intro that you'd like to share with our listeners about you?
Oh, that's the bullet points. I think those are the high topics. Everything else branches out. It's such a web. There's no beginning and no end, really. That's why I said earlier today that I really didn't have any one topic to talk about. I'd rather leave it to what others would ask me. On my own YouTube channel, I'll, on my own time and agenda, go off about what I want to. But this is your time and your audience, so what are you all interested in? I'm happy to answer anything.
Yeah, and on that note, I want to let you guys know we're going to be taking your calls from the very beginning. If there's any sort of conspiracies or conspiracy theories that you'd like to call in and talk about, feel free to call us. And the number for that, and I'll try to say it slowly because I've been told I say it too fast, is 970-335-9596. 970-335-9596. And yeah, so what I wanted to talk about this evening is conspiracies. What are some conspiracies that you've dealt with in your life?
Well, I've been I don't mean to, and anyone who's familiar with my channel knows I don't advertise myself. I'm not really in this to promote myself. That's why, as you know, I request people ask me. I don't ask them. There's many reasons for that, but I'm not self-promotional, but this is a matter of fact that I've been in some very interesting places to the conspiracy world, and really no one else has. Everyone else talks about it, but I'm the one that's been there, namely Hollywood at the highest level. I mean, I've been invited to the Eyes Wide Shut parties. I've been to a few. When I lost my fiance and my career and everything else in 2011, everyone talking about me too, and naming names like Weinstein or Spacey. Excuse me, I've been saying that since I met this face-to-face 10 years ago. And you add to that my bloodline. When I was in Hollywood, everyone asked me, "Are you the blood of Cecil B?" And I'm like, I guess so. Ray, when someone asks if you're a god, you say yes. And that opens doors. They love those bloodlines. And now add to that I am openly a Scottish Rite Freemason, 32nd degree. Everyone talks about all these things. The Hollywood inside, the bloodlines, the club, the Masons. I'm all of it. I can tell you straight from the inside what is and isn't. So conspiracy theorists, conspiracy researchers, ask me the questions, researchers. I'm not afraid. I'm drinking.
Fear not.
I'm drinking coconut water. So
awesome! It's so good for you.
Liquid bananas.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Potassium, nutrients, no wear and tear on your teeth or your intestines.
Man, I'm so glad we got this sound thing fixed. It was not working over here because of the update, and then I tried to go over here, and then I couldn't hear you, but then they couldn't hear you if I could hear you, and I had to restart my computer, and then all was well and good. So I'm so glad that we didn't have to do a replay because I really wanted to talk to you tonight and go over all this stuff going on in our world. And Hollywood... Go ahead.
In the words of Louis the Vampire, I'm grateful for this opportunity. The dark forces did try and thwart us before, but they're weakening. They put up just a little bit of a little half-assed effort tonight, but we're past them, and we got 3 hours to make the most of it.
Nice. Well, we have a question here in the chat room, and it comes from...
I can't see the chat room. My computer's not the best to maximize audio capability. I've turned off everything else, so I can only hear. I can't read anything.
Okay. Well, Susan, she was asking, how did you lose everything?
I lost everything materialistic or conventional. I compare it fittingly to the tale of Moses. I lost my fiancée. I lost my life's investments in film school and that career. I lost my a lot of friends, pretty much all my friends, because circa 2011, you come back from Hollywood saying, they're not just communists and down there. There's pedophiles too, and Satanists. And you ever see Dragnet with the goat's pants dance? And that's all real. And they're like, Matt, you discovered marijuana in Los Angeles. You're just smoking too much. And I'm like, that opens your pineal gland, you fools. And yeah, I really had to give up my former life. When I was, but the real loss was my fiance. And that is more than I can tell in 3 hours. But the highlights of that would be, when I went to Hollywood, I knew I'd be dealing with pretentious snobs at film school, Ivy League school. I knew I'd be dealing with a bunch of artistic blowhard and no-talent bums, rich kids and the like. I didn't think I'd be dealing with what everyone pretty much knows about now. She couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it. We had one misadventure after another, from Devil's Gate, Pasadena, to good old Laurel Canyon and Wonderland Avenue, and I've been everywhere in that town. Every door was open to me. I've been on every studio, every back lot, every mansion in the hills. She freaked out, I freaked out, and ever since then I've been like, well, I don't really feel like making movies for Hollywood much anymore. How about, like Moses cast out of Egypt, I go across the desert of desolation, find out what's really going on, and come back with an attitude. No sword, just a staff. Or, in my case, a lightsaber. It's a compromise. Just coming back with the Carduceus of truth. And charging nothing for it. No games, just the straight-up truth. Here's what's going on. And as the blood of deMille, Exodus, 10 Commandments, who better to do it? I'm willing to Indiana Jones cut my bridges in Hollywood. I've already called out and named so many names. If I ever went back to that town, it would be like Indiana Jones going back to, wasn't it the Sultan of Madagascar who threatened to cut your head off if you ever returned?
I believe so.
Then your hands, perhaps. No, it wasn't my hands. It was my misunderstanding with Hollywood.
Yeah. But there are so many strange things going on out there, and we had another question in another chat room here. I'm scrolling down to find it again. Pardon my tardiness. It seems to be trend today. Michael was wondering, what popular conspiracy theories does Matt think are real and which are not?
More are real than, well, of popular, define popular. The big ones that are not real are, flat Earth. But, back to Indiana Jones. I didn't used to believe in magic, a lot of superstitious hocus pocus, but when you've been there and you've seen it, I don't really rule anything out unless it's really absurd. Of the ones I know to be true from a matter of experience and or enough research that I'm convinced. The swamp that the president speaks of. Everyone in Hollywood is guilty. Show me the person in Hollywood who's not guilty or complicit. That's why I didn't last there. I wouldn't take the blackmail. I wouldn't sign my name in blood. I wouldn't get blackmailed with drugs or sex or rock and roll. At the student level, they start. Anyone who's in that town has to know about it. Don't let anyone in Hollywood play stupid. The child trafficking, all of that trade with China, the body parts, your Pepsi, abortions, Epstein Island, Bohemian Grove, all true, and generally more extensive than people think. That's why I referred to the Temple of Doom. I thought I was going to Pankot Palace in Hollywood. Didn't realize there was a Temple of Doom with children enslaved underneath it. And then not far underneath it. MKULTRA, everything you hear about the programming going back to World War II, yeah, all true. Parsons, Crowley, Hubbard's work, Hubbard, Parsons with Crowley's work out at Devil's Gate, Pasadena. I hear there's a Netflix show called Strange Angel based on that now. That's the story I was telling since I literally walked into it in 2011. Montauk Project, absolutely 100% legit. And I don't know, how far abroad do you want me to go? See, this is why it's such a web. I can go anywhere with this. I'm like the Forrest Gump of conspiracy. I've kind of been everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's weird because I look back on it like I never realized all this was happening. It's only when I reflect on it and realize, oh my God, everything everyone's talking about, I've been there. And for those that we don't want to lose the audience, I can prove it. You know, I'm public about being a Mason. If you're in the Tacoma, Washington area, come to a public dinner. I'll introduce you to the 33rd Degrees. They're actually very nice people. I've got my AFI diploma here. I've got I've still got the keys to the back lots. I could still probably Indiana Jones my way through that town and no one would know. I make a lot of wild claims, but I challenge anyone to test the evidence because it's there. I'm not making anything up.
Well, can you tell us a bit more about the Montauk Project and what you've learned about it?
Well, it's for those that don't know, the gist of the Montauk Project is using Tesla technology and or recovered UFO technology, which may be one and the same going back to the airship cults of the 19th century. Most people don't know about that. Breakaway civilizations. But we developed the Montauk chair, which is what I'm sitting in right now. Not a visual replica, but a functional proportionate relaxing chair. It's somewhere between a sort of like a lazy boy and an office chair. It's a relaxed position, like a meditative chair. And they would find the children with the right DNA, which is to say the Nazi Aryan master race Atlantean recipe with a dash of Native American blood somehow recreates this ancient DNA combination that allowed them to, as Tesla said, through frequency and vibration, the keys to understanding this matrix we're in, open up. They could neo the matrix. They thought they were it was an extension of the Philadelphia experiment and the anti-radar invisibility. But as we all know, they messed with time and space. And when we break away from the old model, the old 20th century linear model of time being this linear thing, it's more of a matrix of intermeshing experiences. Everyone's in their own little bubble, if you will. We're in an ocean of experience. There's no linear path to anything. We opened up stargates, and then we started to realize how to materialize things. We experimented with cans of beer and small items of furniture, like a simple chair. But then what we really unlocked is the Holy Grail, because the DNA is the Grail, and as a Mason, I can tell you the Rosalind Pillar, the apprentice pillar that contains the Grail, it is talking about the double helix. That's why it looks the way it does. It's we basically managed to invent a 3D printer for reality, and it was in the hands of the military. This is a scary prospect. So, some people sabotaged the project on August the 12th, 1983, and manifest a monster that trashed the place. If you've seen the show Stranger Things, it was based on that. It was originally titled Montauk, and then it was retitled Stranger Things and moved to Indiana from Long Island, which is where the real incident took place. And the monster summoned is loosely what happened in the show. It trashed the facility, and then they opened up a time loop. to the Philadelphia experiment 40 years before. And what they had to do was break it off on both ends, an electric arc, if you will, arcing through time and space. Now, where this becomes even stranger for me is that somehow my whole life I have channeled this incident. No shortage of evidence, beginning with 1983, only months before the Montauk project actually happened in reality. Not that I knew about it until decades later, after Hollywood. That's important. I didn't learn about the Montauk project till 2013, when I came across some YouTube interviews about it. But in 1983, it happened to me, for real, and I have hundreds of witnesses. I vanished from the schoolyard, right out of Stranger Things, right on the edge of the baseball field. And I had hundreds of, it was a Steph Young missing 411 type of incident where everyone combed the area, couldn't find me. A few hours later, boom, there I am with borderline hypothermia, wearing a jacket on a warm summer day, no memory of what happened. And this is the same year that I saw an entity in my house, a faceless entity. I have emphasized that for over 30 years with psychologists, friends, family. Faceless entity, just like in Stranger Things. I'm the right age. 1974 is my birth year. Synchronously, June 14th, the same birthday as President Trump. I'm sure we just lost some listeners, but Trump has a tie to the Montauk project. Everyone knows his uncle. I wrote about this years before anyone else knew about it. I thought I was making it up. I'm getting ahead of myself. Non-linear here. Trying to keep it linear. In 1983, I was 9 years old, basically the same age as a Stranger Things kid. I rode my bikes to school with them. I watched Ghostbusters and had a Ghostbusters Halloween costume. I have a Dragon's Lair arcade machine in this house where I'm sitting right now. I bought it 29 years ago, 1990, and I've kept it ever since. That show was... And Dungeons and Dragons, that was my life. I made a career with role-playing games, as you pointed out in the intro. I got into film by doing local role-playing game films, which coincidentally had a ongoing joke about waffles. The synchronicities go on and on and on. And, the Dark World, the Upside Down, I've written about in novels for decades that I've had people read. And I have registered with the Library of Congress in 1995, exactly as in the show. Now,
That's
awesome. The chair, I have tried, anyone who's known me for the last 20 years knows I've been trying to perfect this chair. It's like Richard Dreyfuss sculpting the Devil's Tower in Close Encounters. He's trying to get it right, and he's a madman about it. I worked it into my thesis. I made my thesis in Hollywood at AFI, the Indiana Jones and the Throne of the Gods, a la Indiana Jones and the Montauk Chair of Atlantis. I thought I was making it up, but it turned out in my theory, my thesis, the way it would work, the way the reason the villains would want it, turned out to be exactly what it was. And then I find after Hollywood, after all this, I stumble on the Montauk research circa late 2013, early 2014. As I went through the books by Peter Moon, every page, 2 incidents out of 4 books, every page had a synchronicity to my life. A big one, not just I'm seeing what I want to see. Hey, oh my God, am I going to be in this chair in the future? Did I in the past? What is going on with my life? 2, it's 2 hard incidents. 1, it says that, I forget which book. If you're familiar with the Montauk books, anyone in the chat room, perhaps you can cite me the pages or whatever. It says if you happen to get close to Mark Hamill in Hollywood, because Mark Hamill's father, Admiral Hamill, amongst others like Aleister Crowley, was tied to the Montauk Project, then your life will go astray, be like a curse. Well, that's exactly what happened, because in early 2011, I was scheduled to work with Mark Hamill on the sequel to the Space Guys show, We worked with his friend Jason Marsden, the voice of Binks the Cat, Max Goofy. I spent a couple of weeks with him. He's a friend of Mark Hamill. He put our sequel script in his hand. He was going to do a day with us. I was going to build a set for good old Luke Skywalker in 2011. And then everything went to hell in L.A., just like the books say. And the other one was, if you're ever approached by the Scarlet Woman who wants you to talk to Orion, well, this happened to me in 2002. If anyone from my past is listening, this is why Gen Con 2006 and the name of Rachel is like a hot dagger in my psyche, because fools interfered with the timeline. Biff Tannen prevented McFly from getting to the clock tower on time. And now the lightning bolt is gone. Show me another one. But she, in 2003, the books say, not only will this strange character want you to meet with this Orion person, but they'll want you to read the book Stranger in a Strange Land, which is also the story of Moses, synchronously. Well, this character in my life, Rachel, did exactly that. A man named Orion wanted her to hook up with me by her own admission, and she wanted to read me the book Stranger in a Strange Land. Why? Why is it in these books about the Montauk Project all these years later? And then there's hundreds more examples, but we only have a few hours. But I think you get the idea that stranger things are happening. At a certain point, coincidence is no longer coincidence. And I passed that years ago.
And fact is indeed stranger than fiction. I do agree.
Yes, indeed.
So we have go ahead.
The whole Trump connection is a whole nother rabbit hole of coincidence.
Yes, and that was one of the questions here. Dell and the SOR Space Travelers was wondering what the connection between Trump and Montauk is.
Well, it'll be two-part, like the project itself. There'll be the basic story everyone knows, and then there's my story to it. New Dimensions, as I like to say. It was the name of a game company I made 19 years ago. John Trump, the uncle of Donald Trump, is one of, not the only, but one of the few people responsible for either raiding Tesla's apartment and or securing where the papers and secrets went. So he had some part to play in the Tesla technology, the legendary Tesla technology that led to the Montauk Project. Because the Montauk Project came out of the Philadelphia experiment, which Tesla actually worked on in the beginning before he said no more, and then he died shortly thereafter, coincidentally or not. But he was old, to be fair. But that is allegedly the source of the Trump family fortune. Very interesting. Now, my story with Trump is another basket of synchronicities. It starts with, I was never political. I never was interested in politics. You couldn't interest me in the least. The moment a movie became political, I went to sleep. I grew up on Star Wars, Indiana Jones, The Dark Crystal, The Phantom Menace, Palpatine politics. Like the rest of us. Who cares? And in real life, I grew up with Gallagher the comedian and George Carlin. I knew these politicians on both sides were a bunch of crooks. I didn't want to waste my energy on them. I didn't care. But in Hollywood, everyone made me care. That's a whole other story, but I still didn't take a political side. I've always been the UFO chaser, the Agent Mulder, the Indiana Jones. I'm above politics. I don't care about that. I care about the mysteries of the universe. But everyone has to have a little fun along the way. In my case, I liked Marvel Comics and everything back in the 80s. But in the late 80s, I found pro wrestling. First event I watched, I found a friend's old tape collection and I rummaged through them. I was borrowing movies and I'm like, hey, this wrestling stuff, I remember this. Marvel Comics was getting a little too dark for me. Zombie Spider-Man and stuff, not my thing. I like cheerful, bright and colorful. I like classic Steve Ditko, Stan Lee Spider-Man. But, so I went to pro wrestling. And the first event I watched from Trump Plaza with Jesse Ventura as commentator, and I was already a fan of Predator and the Running Man. So I'm, great, 4 hours of Jesse Ventura, awesome. Donald Trump, I didn't know. I didn't care about finance any more than politics. But I heard his name, and so when I saw him on camera, he gets a little 1-minute interview midway through the show, and I'm like, that's Trump? He's a young fella. I pictured some 70-year-old, well, kind of like he is now. I pictured him then. And I thought, okay, well, at least he likes wrestling. He's got a sense of humor. But I've never watched reality shows, never watched 1 minute of The Apprentice, couldn't care less. I feel like George Carlin about golf. I don't watch beauty pageants. There's nothing about Trump I care about, except, hey, every few years he pops up in wrestling. Okay, cool. Jesse Ventura is very important here. When I came back from LA, I had a lot to think about, including this is my third interview, what the hell, this is not public. I was very much on the verge of suicide, as you can imagine. Lost everything, had all of the evil of Hollywood thrown in your face, tempted to join the dark side, sign your name in blood or you'll never work in this town again. I might mean that literally, I might not. Jesse Ventura was good medicine. I feel like in Conan the Barbarian. He will not cry, so I cry for him. I didn't want to get mad, because if I allowed myself to get mad, people were going to get hurt. I know where these people live. I still know where people live. There's nothing stopping me from getting in a car or getting on a plane or a train right now and going to Hollywood and going Frank Castle on these pedophiles. That's a horrible thing to live with all these years when people say you're crazy. So I let Jesse Ventura get angry for me. I watched his conspiracy theory show before it was censored off of YouTube. And that's when I started to go, so this Bohemian Grove thing I heard about in LA is real. Oh, really? Building 7, huh? Bilderberg, huh? See, HAARP is real. I've only been talking about that since 1994. I told everyone about HAARP and what they're going to do with it, and exactly as 1994 on the. Do you remember the show Sightings with Tim White? That old paranormal TV show on Fox. I loved that show. And they did a segment on HAARP, and I said, when the 2012 awakening starts, you watch. They're going to start burning crops to geoengineer and warfare, and everything is happening now. I don't know why. And I told anyone that would listen, including my ex-fiance. She left me about 2 months before I saw this show and could see, I'm not crazy. Jesse went to the gate. So I have a fondness for Jesse Ventura. Predator's one of my favorite movies, and boy, he helped red pill me a lot after Hollywood. Not that I needed red pilling, but he helped fill in the blanks. Just the missing data. I got so many invitations from parties, small and big. Oh, we're meeting at the local restaurant, the local watering hole, Hollywood Billiards, Pig and Whistle, Cat and the Fiddle, all these local haunts in Hollywood. But also, hey, do you want to come to a pool party at this address in the hills? You'll be the only guy there, 60 models. And there's a camera in every room, isn't there? Tell you what, I'll show up in the bushes with my Indiana Jones hat and my camera. Ha, ha, ha. And then you get run out of town. Don't Tom Cruise your way into the Eyes Wide Shut party. They will sniff you out.
Yeah, they'll smell it.
That stuff's real. And I'm just down in a beer to steady my nerves a little here.
Well, I did make a list, but before I get to that, there's more questions in the chat room. Let's see. Michael McNeil in SOR Space Travelers is wondering, is there a secret U.S. Space Force, and do we have people on Mars?
I'll answer that in a moment, but first I have to apologize. I guess I lied. Ask me the questions, Bridgekeeper. I guess I am afraid. Anyway, secret space program, yes.
Yeah, just don't show your fear. It's all right to be afraid. Just don't show it.
That's a little bit of PTS creeping through there. The secret space program, yes. I had occasion to speak to people that worked with Kubrick. Yes, he did fake it, but we've been there before the Apollo missions. That's just the cover. That's for public consumption. It's like when the president has a double or things like that. It's all show. I think Trump's Space Force, it's not even Trump's Space Force. Trump was chosen by an internal rebellion to be the president, but he's not doing this alone. He was not from the beginning. He's probably dragged into it, frankly, because he's going to have his family hunted for generations by angry, sore losers. I mean, look at the South. Look at the Confederacy. They're still bitter a century and a half later. But the people, the rebellion behind the scenes, who are not going to disclose their identities until much later, I'm sure, the Space Force is a way of expediting the release of secret information. We've been back engineering UFOs for so long. We've got all this technology, but you can't dump it on the public because that just destroys the equilibrium of society. So what you do is you create a Space Force, and then you say, oh, look at this. We developed anti-gravity. Yeah, we've had it for 30, 40 Yeah, you see how they can do this. And it's a new space race on. China just landed on the far side of the moon, and there's a lot of propaganda that goes with that, with funding. I saw this clip on stepping in on my parents the other night. They had Tucker on, and I walked in just as Tucker started talking about the signal, the second big wow that came in. And then he started showing those debunked clips of UFOs that were leaked a couple years ago. The audio's wrong with those. The man I'd recommend you to for both those, analysis of those UFO videos that are shown on Fox recently, and the secret space program is John Lear, the son of the guy who did Learjet, the friend of Bob Lazar. John Lear. He's got long interviews on YouTube. They're excellent. He'll tell you everything you need to know. But, there's one more thing I was going to say there about the, Tucker Carlson just talking about this stuff. It's all getting people hyped up for a new space race, which means funding will be approved and blah, 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 blah. But we have to, because the genie's out of the bottle. If we don't get out there, China and or Russia will be up there, and then who's to stop them from having a rod of God floating over the Super Bowl, if you know what that is. The basically death from above.
Yeah, and that, to me brings up a certain point. Elon Musk had a secret meeting. It wasn't too long ago. It was last year, where he invited all kinds of scientists and all kinds of different people, and it was totally secret. Nobody's to know about this. And then, of course, it got leaked out by somebody, but it was all about the race for Mars, which is, kind of like the, space race for the moon that we had back in the 60s or 70s or whatnot. And then you see all of these SpaceX, rockets going up, and everybody's looking at it, and this is unnatural, the way, it looks, and the way that these different things are falling off of it and kind of spiraling, and anti-gravity stuff going on, and it's one after the other, and they say they're doing a certain thing, but after this meeting happened is when they really started kicking off all these rockets taking off. So I'm wondering, is this a race for Mars and not what they're saying it is as far as satellites and such? And are they trying to build on Mars and then have a colony up there and, try to beat China or Russia or whoever else is trying to get up there before us? What are your thoughts on that?
I think we've been on Mars for decades. I think we've been there since the 60s. I don't think there's a race for Mars anymore. There's a race for the public perception, like with the moon. We were already there. But it's the race for public opinion. There's more to the space program than exploration. Even the concept of exploration is more of a 1960s thing. Star Trek was propaganda. Started off as good, became corrupted. Roddenberry was a brother Mason. Nimoy tells a tale on Art Bell's show about how the Men in Black basically visited him in the first season and said, "You're being used to indoctrinate the people for the reality of contact." And then United Nations propagandist Rick Berman came in and messed it all up and later on. But there's dominance in a is geopolitical even the right word when you're dealing with outer space anymore? Human nature, but you can never rule out the UFOs that are never going to approve of this foolishness. They're not going to let us be if the dogs get out of the pen, they're going to, get us penned back in. I think that this sounds like an incredible leap of faith. This sounds foolishly optimistic for myself, actually. But I won't disparage the Great Awakening that's going on. I think that certain people realize we have to not just explore, but we have to broaden our horizons. I think open contact with non-humans is... By the time we publicly get to Mars, we're going to be disclosing contact information and things, and it's going to change the game. It's not just going to be about exploration. It's going to be about who are we going to visit. I hope that's the dimension. That's the path I hope we go.
Yeah, and it's funny because Elon Musk is a very publicized guy. Like, he always wants to be in the eye of the camera or whatnot. And I
forgot about. Can I say real quick? I just think he's being used like the Space Force to release things. He's a public figure people can like. He's a sort of a Tony Stark type of character that if he releases something, more people will accept it. He's a priest, in a way. He's a modern-day priest. He's used to talk to the people. But he gets things seeded to him from the military-industrial complex, where he gets all his grant money, too.
Yeah, well, a lot of times, like I said, he wants to be in the eye of the public. He wants to be on television. He wants all of this stuff as far as free advertisement or whatnot. But back in 2016, he had a secret meeting with the Pentagon. And then just this last year, he had this secret meeting that he held with scientists and, NASA people and all kinds of different people of that era to kind of do this space thing, and then all of a sudden they're having all of these launches, which generally they let people know beforehand, but they weren't. And so everybody's like, what is this? And thinking it's kind of like an alien invasion or whatnot. And then they're saying, oh, well, we're just putting satellites out here and it's this and this and that and that. But I think there's something more to it. And, I've been watching History Channel and Ancient Aliens and all this other stuff for years. But according to them, like, we may have come from Mars, but then there was this war that happened on Mars as far as nuclear. There was a couple nuclear blasts that, had them send us to Earth, and Mars was no longer inhabitable. But there are different minerals and such, and there's actually water been found. And so I could see that they would be able to re-inhabit and be able to... they have to introduce different bacteria and such for plants to grow. But other than that, there's certain minerals and everything that they need there already. All they need is the bacteria, but then, people are against that as well. Introducing different bacteria to a different planet and yada yada. But, I don't know, I think it's interesting. Do you find any truth behind the fact that we may be Martians that came to Earth and were transplanted here and now we're trying to go back home, or is this just a trying to colonize to preserve our legacy because this Earth is actually not going to be around much longer, as far as maybe 200 or somewhat years from now?
Before I forget Elon Musk again, I just want to wrap up on him. I think that Musk, he's a good conduit to release things. If one of his satellites sees a UFO, he can go on Joe Rogan and talk about it, and everyone will accept it. That they'll use him for that. But beware of that. Beware of the idol. He shouldn't be the only source of information, regardless whether he has the rockets or not. What they're doing up there, what we're launching up there, what we might be dealing with up there, Mars. Absolutely, Mars had civilization before. Did humans come from there? Could be. I really don't think humans are indigenous to Earth. The fun way I like to look at it is it's like the Men in Black. Hey, they gave us microwave ovens, Velcro, liposuction. They're going to give us other things. Seed it through Space Force. Seed it through Musk. Maybe Musk hangs out with the MIB. He's got his tunnels. But I'm sorry, I got my thoughts all muddled there. Mars. I think that humans are not indigenous, like in Men in Black, to a 24-hour cycle. If you think about it, humans are more like 28, 27-hour. We have to go to bed too early or stay up too late. I think we came from somewhere else. And we probably brought cannabis with us, in my opinion, because it's so keyed to our DNA. It's like good kryptonite. It's just came with us, and it's just perfect for us. Mm-hmm. That's why it's sacred to shaman around the world. I don't think humans are indigenous to Earth, and we might have come from many places, Mars being one of them. And does Earth have a time limit? Sure, millions of years are concern. No, cosmic concern with the aliens maybe building a cosmic ark to get us somewhere else, or possibly. I can't claim to know that, though. I will just say I believe without doubt that there is ancient civilization on Mars. Humans came from somewhere else, and the government has been up on Mars and the moon, and probably other places for decades. Of those three things, I would bet my life. If there was some definitive proof in front of me, like open the box, the proof is in there, or it's a bomb, I'd open it.
Yeah, it's very interesting and intriguing, and one of the things on my list of conspiracies is global warming and how people don't believe in it. But before I get to that, we'll go back to that, because it is on my list. I want to get to this other question, and we only have about 9 minutes before we go to break, but Dell was asking, can you please tell us about MKUltra?
MKUltra, for German mind control, came over with the Nazis at Paperclip, who largely landed at the Montauk Project, eastern Long Island. One that came with them was Werner von Braun. He went to work for Disney. A lot of them went to work in Hollywood. And MKUltra had a seat there as well. It had other locations. Look into the Tavistock Institute, and oh god, there's the names. There's so much to remember. There's just a few other creepy asylums where we've used this over the years on the East Coast, but Hollywood is my realm of expertise. Laurel Canyon, all of that. MKUltra is... have you seen A Clockwork Orange by Stanley Kubrick?
Yes, I have.
That's MKUltra, The Manchurian Candidate, and The Bourne Identity. Those three movies are MKUltra movies. It's splitting the mind, realizing the Nazis, and humans have realized, but you got all those creepy early 20th century psychologists like Freud and all these other people talking around Europe in secret societies and everywhere behind closed doors, and became self-styled masters of the universe. And it wasn't just the bankers. Don't never forget the mad scientists. And they realize that they can fracture the human mind, and they're like partitioning a computer. They can have two completely different personalities or many personalities, and they can use them for whatever they need to program them for. And they've had a century to perfect it. And for the better part of that century, they've had American tax dollars to do it with. And Hollywood was a testing ground. Every band, this is when I say everyone in Hollywood is guilty. If you get success in Hollywood, you're guilty. They don't allow it otherwise. Every band of the 1960s counterculture movement was tied to the military-industrial complex through their fathers or their agents or something. They all lived in Laurel Canyon together, and it's all easily traceable. They're a bunch of MK brats. starting with Jim Morrison. That's where he got his LSD, from the same people that Huxley worked with. And that's why all these guys got contracts, millions of dollars out of nowhere. Very cheap for the military-industrial complex to use mind control on a mass scale to test with the crowds. Jim Morrison thought he was being a shaman. What he was really being was a disciple of the Sith Lords. And then they figured out how to fine-tune frequency and vibration, and they've really guided culture ever since. That's MKUltra. It was originally mind control, like a single person in a movie, but now they do it on a mass scale. And when you add in their HAARP and the 5G and everyone carrying around a cell phone, you remember in Batman, The Dark Knight, now 11 years ago. Ay. Time flies. But
right? That was like yesterday.
But at the end, when Morgan Freeman, and he had the big console wired to every cell phone in Gotham City that he disapproved of. Wow, back when we had principles against mass surveillance. Imagine if you used those cell phones not to just spy on people and find the Joker's voice, but everyone carrying around a cell phone, you're potentially a mind control victim when they activate that 5G wavelength, when they turn it on and they got enough installed. Or just like in Batman, they could make the city agitated and go nuts, make everyone afraid or paranoid.
Well, I'm so glad, I don't even have 5G. My 4G barely even works. Most times I only get the 3G or LTE going on. So,
they're going to install these towers in big city centers, and people are going to be around them. And then imagine these, and not just in America, but around the world. Imagine the Yellow Vest protests or some Antifa action with the 5G towers right there, and then they crank up the HAARP tunes to the same frequency as the human brain. Same frequency. So while they can manipulate the weather at the same time under the auspices of that, it's like an onion. There's layers and layers and layers. Hollywood. Oh, there's the scumbags, and then there's the Scientologists, and then there's the gay mafia, then the commie mafia, then you get down to the pedophiles and the satanic mafia. With the technology, HAARP. Yeah, well, we're studying the ozone. Okay, you found out our secret. We actually can burn holes in the ionosphere. You found our dirty... Oh, no, now you really found our dirty secret. We actually can control weather. Okay, now you really found our dirty secret. We can influence the human mind. And on and on and on. Thank you, Uncle John Trump.
Right. Yeah, and I heard a little bit about that, how HAARP, and they use these different tunes and such to do things. And then with the lower one, I don't know if that's where earthquakes come from or if that's where we get into the mind control stuff. But I know things have been going on with television, and most people are either pinned to their laptops or their television, and so we're not looking up and seeing UFOs and whatnot. But different messages come through, and if you don't play it slowly, like if you record it and can play it back slowly, you'll see different things like spike through that you don't realize consciously, but subconsciously you're getting it. So it's pretty strange and amazing how that stuff works.
Very much so. And back to earthquakes for a moment, another earth energy. And if you think about how animals and birds react before an earthquake, with a century and trillions of dollars, these mad scientists can figure out how the commonality, and they can freak us out. They can freak the world out. We have supervillains on the loose out there. Cobra Commander and Destro are up to no good. It's my comical way of looking at it, because otherwise it drives you the wrong kind of crazy.
Yes, a bit batty. Yeah, we got 2 minutes to go. Anything you wanted to add to the things we've discussed this first hour?
I don't think so. If there's anything I've forgotten, anyone point it out real quick, or I can resume and pick it up after the break. But I really just want to answer others' questions out there. On my own devices, I'll go on and on and on about my own. And I do that on my own channel anyway.
Well, we did have... go ahead.
Like I said, bookending it, more conspiracies are true than not. we're in that post-2012 awakening world where the fantastic things are real. We got a pro wrestling president. We're ending wars here. We got flying cars and legal cannabis, and everything's changing. So why not believe in the fantastic? It's happening anyway. I love it. I don't want to go back to the boring 20th century where nothing was happening.
Yeah, it is a very strange world we're living in, and there's so much going on, and then, you know, the government lying to us all the time. And, you know, as a child and growing up, I always swore that I'd never join the military, etc., etc. But then I was in an abusive relationship, and I felt like because he took me away from my family and my friends, that was my only ticket out. You know, I'm kind of slumped in the couch and watching TV, and I see this Marine Corps commercial, and I'm like, hey, that's my ticket out. You know, I can finally get out of here. But it made me learn so much more than I knew before. I never trusted my government, and after being a part of it, I really, really didn't trust it. So, yeah.
I'm sure.
They're always putting the blinders on us, and even though it's right in front of our eyes, they put all these different things in front of us to put the denial out there and, you know, make us think others are crazy that are onto it. But on that note, we got to go to our first break, so you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these messages.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live, and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, we own the night.
Hey, guess what? You can now get your brand new Spaced Out Radio swag at spacedoutradio.com. We've brought the store back with all new items for you to pick out and pick up for yourself, your family, or friends. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, we got it all. All you have to do is head to our website and click on Store. Choose what you want and it's shipped to you. The Spaced Out Radio store is right there for you. Come shop with us at spacedoutradio.com. Then we can own the night together.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com. If you're heading to Vancouver, make sure you stop by the official bar of Spaced Out Radio, the Moose Vancouver. It's the place to party in YVR. At the corner of Nelson and Granville, the Moose Vancouver is always up to speed with a kitchen staff that serves great food. All food on the menu, $6.95 to $8.95. There's a reason the Moose Vancouver is recognized as one of the hottest spots on the West Coast. Get your horns up for the Moose Vancouver.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
You can follow Tessa on Twitter at TessaTNT, on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, back to Spaced Out Weekend host, Tessa N Thomas.
Hear the sound again, voices dancing in my head, smile wide, drowning slowly as the echoes rise.
Hey guys, welcome back, and thanks so much for joining Matt and I this evening. Matt, welcome back, and thanks so much for coming back a third time. I'm so excited to have you.
You're masochists, aren't you? But thank you.
No, I really do enjoy having you, and I really do look highly upon the things that you have to say and things that you've shared with me personally and such. And the information that you have, it's a wealth of knowledge that a lot of people don't know about.
It is amazing how much is hidden, even from me all those years. You know, I thought, I know Area 51, I know Roswell, I'm smart, I'm woke. No. There's always more to learn, and it's amazing how much is hidden in plain sight. It's right there. You just have to... it's just a hidden language. The language of the birds, as they say. The language of symbols. That's why Gandalf talks to birds. It's all symbology.
Yeah, we were talking about reincarnation last weekend, and I was like, if I ever come back, I want to be a bird. A free bird, not one in a cage, okay? There's a difference. But on break, we were talking about Hollywood and LA, and one of the people in the chat room, I believe it was Bushi, was asking about Club 33, Disney's Club 33.
Ah, yes, Disney. I could talk for hours on Disney alone, but Club 33, Freemasonry, all over Disneyland. Disney was an honorary 33rd. I have confirmed this. I hang out often with the brothers from various lodges at the Grand Lodge of Washington State. We have a weekly meeting in the library. And I ask about celebrities and such. Disney, is he or isn't he? He was an honorary. There is some people that are given an honorary 33rd, but they don't know what it means. It's more just so they can hang out at the parties and do things for public service, like Disney would do for the military-industrial complex. But that's why it's Club 33. Now, when I was there, which is to say when my fiance worked there and I was working towards a job there, and we went there every week, we had season passes, lived 45 minutes away. Was going to make it a career, we're going to be married there. We dug into everything in that park, behind the scenes, everything we could. We heard so many stories why it's called Club 33. Oh, there were originally 33 shops in New Orleans Square, or it was the 33rd Street, or no, it's the Freemasonic 33rd degree. That's why it's Skull and Bones of the Caribbean. Columbia sailing ship is right there. The Dove, like District of Columbia, and Mark Twain, the riverboat. Mark Twain was a Brother Mason. Davy Crockett in Frontierland. Davy Crockett was a Brother Freemason. And on and on and on. So that's what Club 33 is all about. And that's not a bad thing. Actually, Lafitte, when you board the boats at Lafitte's Landing in Pirates, Lafitte was a Freemason. The whole Battle of New Orleans, that's how Jefferson and they could all communicate and would get along, because they knew the language of the birds. They knew the secret handshakes and so on. In fact, I learned recently, talking to the brothers, the history of Masons up through the Caribbean. If you're a James Bond fan, this might interest you. After the whole Templar thing fell out, all coming from France. Let's start with France a few hundred years ago, or about 500 years ago. Some people came through the Caribbean. One of them was Surno in West Indies, Jamaica. And this led up to New Orleans and Masons up there with what Disney knows about. Surno, Dr. No, Jamaica, James Bond, the first film. Sean Connery's another Brother Mason. So Disney knew what he was doing. That's also why the castle is unfinished. When my fiance was there, she was given part of your tour when you become a cast member is you're given a tour of everything behind the scenes, regardless of whether it's important to your job or not. So she got to walk amongst the pirates' treasure hoard, and she got to go walk Indiana Jones with all the lights on and blah, blah, blah. And I was envious, of course. They told her that the castle has one unpainted tower, and that Walt Disney never wanted Disneyland finished because he always wanted imagination in the world. That's poetic. That's nice for the profane, for the exoteric. But the real reason is any Freemason will tell you that no man is perfect, no temple is finished, you must always continue the quest. That's why the castle is unfinished. It's a Masonic thing. And that's, again, not a bad thing. If people think Masons are satanic, I was well-versed in conspiracy lore before I became one. There is no Baphomet, there is no Lucifer, there is no satanic Bible, there is no blood or anything like that. It's really, in every Masonic lodge, there's a portrait of George Washington, there's an American flag, there's a lot of talk about the Ark of the Covenant, the Templar Knights. It's very Indiana Jones. All the Indiana Jones movies are Freemason movies, all the way. Sala's a Shriner, that's why he wears a fez. And so on and so forth. Even Temple of Doom is a reworking of, because Spielberg, himself is Jewish, and this is very he's setting the Israelites free in another way. That's what's going on. So there's nothing satanic in the Masonic tradition. Let's dispel that right there. So Disneyland was set up like America. George Washington, a Brother Mason, the Constitution, and all these were good things. Because other people have perverted them, You got the New World Order perverting America. They pervert our politics. They pervert our culture with Hollywood. Doesn't mean it started. It had a good foundation, but bad people have messed it all up.
Well,
Disney,
Bougie... Oh, go ahead.
Disney is a shadow of its former self, in my opinion.
Bougie was asking about the number 137, and then he had another question after that.
I don't know the number 137, so bring on the next question. Sorry on that one.
Okay, and I had to say, I noticed the hat that you're talking about when I was showing my son this James Bond, or the Indiana Jones movie, and I was like, check this out, you gotta watch this, and it was where they were having the boat chase and everything, and I did notice that he was wearing one of the Shriners' hats, and I was like, oh my goodness, what is this all about?
The Shriners are a branch of Freemasonry. They're really the party group. You have to have money to be a Shriner, because you ever see those commercials for Shriners hospitals, children's hospitals?
Mm-hmm.
That's the donations. That's the rich guys club. You get to wear a red hat, and you get to drink you get to hang out with Homer Simpson and sing, "We do, we do." But that's why Sala's the Shriner in the movie, because he's the jovial, comic relief type. He's the fun character, and so much symbology in those movies. The Brotherhood of the Cruciform Sword is a very close representation of the Templar cross. Indiana Jones enters the Tabernacle of Moses in every movie. You just don't realize it. And the Masonic Lodge, the Blue Lodge, is meant to be a representation of the Tabernacle. That's what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be going back to the old wisdom. So Indiana Jones, primarily when he goes down into the map room, the hole in the ceiling, the eye in the sky, and then he stands in the east with the sunrise, and then there's an unbroken line between himself and the center, the altar where the Ark of the Covenant is. This is the layout of the lodge, and yes, it's okay. I've made sure it's okay to say these things. So this is the truth. He is basically the master of the lodge in that scene. And then in the next few movies, he does it in many ways. I'll leave you to look for him, but just look for the layout, the eye in the sky, the descent, and then he gains something in each one.
So Bougie's next question was to ask about the Ark of Gabriel found at Macaw.
Haven't studied it. Now I've got some homework to do. Thank you. I love a new book, so to speak, or a new bunch of research.
I was just looking again to see if we had any more in the chat room, and I'm not seeing anything. I gotta look over here at SOR Space Travelers. Okay, so I'm seeing the third eye, and that was number 1 on my conspiracy theory list, the New World Order and the Illuminati.
Mm-hmm. The third eye. Oh, I could talk endlessly about the third eye. It is a symbol used by good people and bad people. So it's not the symbol, it's the user. You'd be surprised that the all-seeing eye isn't in Masonry that much. And you wouldn't... in my opinion, it stands for the pineal gland, to keep it real simple. But what other people use it for, it's a case-by-case, cult-by-cult basis. And it's not critical to Masonry. For example, there is you might notice a lot of times you see a square and compass that has a G, and sometimes it has an all-seeing eye. The only difference there is Western Hemisphere, Eastern, basically North America or Europe. They don't quite agree, but the eye is not critical to any ritual or anything because it's not really used in America at all. So other cults use it. Sure, it's a symbol used through time immemorial. It's just, everyone uses the all-seeing eye, but I think fundamentally it comes back to the pineal gland. That's what it is to me. That's my opinion, what everything goes back to. The top of the chakra tree, the Rainbow Bridge, the eye in the sky, the top of the pyramid, all the same thing. Your connection with the source, when you can access it. Smoke more cannabis.
It's good for you.
It decalcifies the pineal gland from all that fluoride. It allows you more of a clear channel to talk to your biology, to your metachlorians, if you will.
What I was getting was the New World Order is the term used to describe the New Orwellian world, where individual freedoms would be non-existent and everything would be controlled from a central hub. The New World Order will be brought about by the elites, who can also be termed the Deep State, Illuminati, the 0.01%, or the Hidden Hand. It proposes a one-world government with one set of rules for all peoples. The idea is that all disasters are constructed by these elites, such as wars, recessions, and diseases. The solution to these problems is much worse than the engineered problems, i.e. vaccines, removal of guns and liberties, increased surveillance, increased impoverishment, high taxes, and a general lessening of the standard of living for all people, bar the 0.01%. Devaluation of the currency is a key tactic used by the elites in order to gain power over all citizens, as it worsens living standards and increases the wealth of the rich in the guise of helping the poor and solving an invented problem. Another tactic is to the promotion of unity is a method of solving imagined problems. An integrated Europe is an example of how the New World Order could be established, and this is why many see the exit of Britain from Europe is seen as a blow to the New World Order / forces of globalism. The hallmark of the New World Order would be centralization, surveillance, regulation, high taxes, social repression, and little or no civil liberties. The term New World Order is mentioned in many newspapers and speeches by politicians and other people of influence, and this is cited as evidence by terrorists that such a plan exists. Conspiracy documentaries such as Zeitgeist also encourage the idea of a New World Order, which is currently being established. Other evidence that a New World Order is being created by the powers that rule the world is the use of Illuminati symbolism seen in media and popular culture, mainly the inverted pentagram. However, there's little evidence of the Illuminati beyond their organization in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt and its subsequent disassembly a year later.
Well, that's a lot to take in. The short answer and a long answer. Short answer, the Sphinx has been buried by sand many times. Long answer. Let's start with the Founding Fathers. The price of liberty is always eternal vigilance. We were too peaceful for too long. Inevitably, there's a power vacuum. Someone's going to come in. The New World Order has been at it for centuries. It has been a slow process. It's like something creeping up on you. You don't notice it. And that's by their design. Weishaupt and the Illuminati were real. They were thought to be put down, but like any good Sith Lords, they're never quite gone. They find the Sauron was put down, but his ring was not destroyed, and so in time the shadow will grow again. And yeah, they are trying, and they were close. They were so close to getting us under this techno-tyranny. But then the Great Awakening happened, right on time, and everything got turned on them, and now the fight is on. Brexit, Yellow Vest movement, Trump, all of this nationalism is not what they want. They want one world government, so every country that's standing up for its identity is a good thing. And they're losing fast. Now, it's very hard for people to conceive of this. It's inconceivable that these people would want to do this, but communism you have to factor into there. it's this ideology that is like a poison. It's a disease. It's highly contagious. And I'm not even meaning to get political here. I'm not even saying communism, but more brainwashing, raising people to believe something with no alternative. And it's like a religion in its own way, or a cult in its own way, that you're raised from birth, like, say, Barry Soetoro, to believe nothing else, or people in Hollywood. My God, everyone in Hollywood has this scary mindset that isn't America so bad? And this was 10 years ago. God, I can't imagine what it's like there now. But they really believe it because they've been indoctrinated to believe it. I refer to the left coast, as the left coast. It's not the west coast, it's the left coast. It's like a beachhead of the New World Order. They have to take down America. America, if the world is Middle Earth, America is Gondor. They want to crack Minas Tirith because that stands between them and everything else. Everything America stands for, Bill of Rights, capitalism, all these things are poison to the New World Order. They can't handle it. So they have to chip away at our culture, at the family, at anything that's traditional. Hollywood is one of their main agents. I was taught by these people how to brainwash people. That flicker rate and between putting subliminal messages and I have so many friends in editing, or former friends. Mm-hmm. Thought I had friends. I knew people in editing. Let's put it that way. It's all true. It's all true. They wanted me to be one of them, and I'm sorry. You New World Order. You made a mistake. You allowed George Lucas to make Star Wars, and I said, never turn to the dark side. You take your Satanism and shove it. And well, that's why I'm not in Hollywood no more. But
and it's funny how Disney bought out Star Wars.
Oh, they own everything. Another monopoly. That mouse is very scary. Mickey and I are going to have it out one day.
Is he really like a rat and mouse clothing?
Well, Mickey is. Yeah, I never really was into Mickey as much. I liked my Pirates of the Caribbean, my Indiana Jones. If anything, I was a duck guy. I was a Scrooge McDuck type of. Okay, Mickey. I don't know. He owns, let's see, Lucasfilm, Marvel, Muppets, Fox. He owns Predator now.
Wow.
And who's next? It's only a matter of time before the Borg assimilate the rest.
That's right. Assimilation is futile. Like, Mickey, don't resist.
Mickey had already taken half of the ships. Why have they stopped at Deck Lucasfilm? They could assimilate the other studios at their will. They have a plan. No, they're very nasty in their cultural indoctrination with Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy, synchronously, was my guest fellow, meaning she got her honorary AFI diploma along with me on the same stage. So I'm her academic peer. Kathleen Kennedy, I outrank you in Hollywood because I'm not only your academic peer by your own acceptance, but I got the bloodline and you don't. So let me just say, the first thing they did, beyond the social justice politics that they injected into Star Wars, they killed off. The first thing they say, Luke Skywalker is missing. A new hope, the symbol of hope and light, gone. Your pineal gland, cut off. And then Mickey gives you the upside down middle finger satanic cross on the tip of the Star Destroyer. That's basically what you got. And then the satanic lightsaber stabs Han Solo through the heart.
Right.
The father figure, gone. And then Luke Skywalker, the symbol of hope for a generation. I quit. I give up. I don't want this. That is communist indoctrination. That and Marvel. Oh, Marvel's good. No, it's not. Marvel is a bunch of broken families. Now, that's the way the characters are written, but anyone who had a family, like, say, Peter Parker, oh no, Aunt May, we're going to change her. See what they're doing? And then they have Thanos wear the wife-beater t-shirt through the whole movie. They're destroying the family. That's Hollywood. It's sick. because communism doesn't care about doesn't care about people using Satanism. That's a weapon. It's a militarized weapon. Hollywood has been weaponized by China.
China
doesn't care. China doesn't care about religion. See, they kick out the religious people or they kill them. They kicked out the Masons. Soviet Russia, Nazi Germany, and Communist China all kicked out the Freemasons. That's why they kicked the Freemasons out in the 30s. That's why Indiana Jones had to get out of the club Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan. To be one, ask one. Socialism doesn't like free thinkers. They don't like anyone worshiping anything but the state. Masons, you're gone. Christians, you're gone. Even Muslims get suppressed over there. So, hey, Hollywood, you want to be satanic? Fine. All the more easy to blackmail you. You're cheaper. Well, we can still destroy the American culture by seeding the minds of the kids. Oh, Marvel's good, but no one has any family father figures. Star Wars, oh, it's about redemption of the family and passing the torch through the generations. Oh, can't have that. In fact, Luke Skywalker, go burn the books. Yoda, you're not going to do it? I'll burn the books. That's what, yeah.
Kind of reminds me of Scientology, but that's a whole different sphere of speech and different stuff we could talk about.
I lived down the street from the Celebrity Center. It was a 7-minute walk from my house. I used to hang out. I got to sit across the street at the Birds Cafe and look at that castle dozens of times with meetings with students or whoever, and industry professionals. I had my last meal in Hollywood with someone there. John Muto, designer of Home Alone, one of my mentors. We had a lunch there across the street from the Scientology Center. I always look at it as the snake towers from Conan the Barbarian. Is creepy. But Scientology is, like I said earlier, with the layers of the onion, it's one of the surface layers. It's there as like a firewall for public scrutiny. If people start asking too many questions, we can blame the Scientologists, but that'll keep them away from the deeper layers of what's really going on. Scientology, though, man, they're creepy. Yeah, they keep people behind walls, and yeah, all that's true. They're brainwasher. They're another cult.
Yeah, and they just tear the families apart, and they don't have to pay taxes, and they use all this money to bully people, and it's just insane that they get away with this stuff. But we had a question in the chat room from Jason, and he was wondering, was it always a Sphinx? You had mentioned the Sphinx earlier with the third eye.
Oh, I was, what I meant was empires' attempts to conquer the world will come and go. The sands of time have covered the Sphinx of Egypt many times, and it's been swept away many times. We're fighting a cycle. An inevitable cycle, as inevitable as an ice age, that there's going to be some attempt at a new world order, and the price of liberty is always eternal vigilance. We must beat it back. That's just the game we're in. The third eye, though, as far as the Illuminati, I don't think there's any one group now that considers themselves by that name the Illuminati. They might take it as a compliment, but when you get people like, say, Jay-Z or Beyonce doing their little ritual, their MKULTRA switch personality ritual in the music videos. Or no, not Jay-Z. Who was it that... Yeah, it was
I believe, Jay-Z's her husband.
Yeah, who was it that died in the fiery car crash in their video or whatever? They all do some sort of phoenix transformation. It was Jay-Z. And they call themselves Illuminati, but...
They seem more satanic to me than anything. As far as these rituals and demons coming through and whatnot. It's really strange.
They don't know what they are, so ultimately they are minions of evil. They're like Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings. They don't understand what Saruman's really all about, and Saruman doesn't really understand what Sauron's all about. They're low on the food chain. They're allowed to think they're at the top of the food chain. The gifts that Hollywood offers and tempts you with, they are so tempting. Believe me, when you become a Mason, you have to believe in some supreme being. Doesn't have to be a Christian God. It can be any, as long as you believe in something beyond the physical. And I said, I wasn't so sure about God until I met the devil. when you're in Hollywood, you are tempted to be seduced. A good movie, you ever see The Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves, where he's a lawyer in New York and it's really, he's working for the devil and doesn't realize it until the end?
Yeah.
And then it becomes literal. Transplant that movie from New York and lawyers to Hollywood. And that's pretty much what you got. They will seduce you. They will find... It sounds like a movie in and of itself. You could make a movie, an Inception-like movie about Hollywood. A movie within a movie within a movie where... How can a whole town be in on it? Because anyone who's not in on it is filtered out. I know that process firsthand. It's they're all too happy to become your friend and find out what you like, and then they find that word gets back. Oh, let's tempt them with that. Someone's having marital problems. Let's find them a hot chick. Someone has a weakness for this substance. Well, let's invite them to a party where it's readily available, and everyone's got a camera. You know, and once you're in, there is no out.
Yeah, and it's like everybody has a camera these days because we all have cell phones, and yeah, it's just insane.
It is.
Well, Trip was... Go ahead.
Oh, as I say, Hollywood's a very evil place these days. I would say the art of film is worldwide. You don't need Hollywood. Anyone can make their own movies now. Mm-hmm. Everyone's got a camera.
Yeah, and I was talking earlier about going to Hollywood as a kid in like 92, 93, and, you know, you have all this glitz and glamour in your mind, and then you go there and it's just smog and homeless people and prostitutes, and I was just like, can we leave now?
Walk of Fame has got cracks in it, and I lived, I'll just give my address and you can Google Earth it, anyone. So handy. 5640 Franklin Avenue. Franklin Plaza Apartments. It was about a mile and a half east of the Kodak Theater and 1 block north. So if I just walked 1 block south, I was on Hollywood Boulevard, and then I walked west about a mile, and I was right there on the Walk of Fame. On the way, I would pass many homeless people, you know, just complete, you know, refuse, and the LA is a desert. So it gets dirty and dusty, and oh, okay, a couple blocks later, tourists and glitz and glamour and everything phony. And I'm like, wow, what a business I'm in. Am I going to do this with the rest of my life? Oh, thank you, bad guys, for making my decision for me.
Yeah, and so many beautiful girls go out there to be a star and then become prostitutes and have pimps running their game, but it's just a sad, sad story.
Nobody escapes the casting couch.
That's right.
Nobody.
Nobody. Well, Trip was asking, why are Masons losing so many Masons and lodges are closing up everywhere?
Cell phones. Masons experienced a boom after World War II because you had a lot of family that were in Masons, and then their sons wanted to be... And there wasn't a lot else to do. Didn't have the internet, you know, didn't even really have TV yet. You had 1 channel if you were lucky. 3 if you were, like, in a good part of town with a good rabbit ears. It was something to do for a lot of people, and it was advantageous, career-wise, for a lot of them. I've learned that, for example, my father was a career firefighter, captain of the Tacoma Fire Department. He worked his way up. But I think he's the only guy in the fire department throughout the 70s that wasn't a Freemason. I'm learning. Once I joined, I bumped into some of my dad's old colleagues. It's like, oh, so you're a Mason too. How about that? But in recent years, everyone's got video games and movies and internet. Not as many people, they have choices for their time. And the dumbing down of culture because of the communist indoctrination ongoing since the 70s, I would say, is when it was 60s and 70s, like I said earlier with Jim Morrison and on up. The bad guys have been working on us for a long time. China believes in slow acting, vengeance through generations. They're patient. But really, culturally, it's deteriorated. and lodges close because of lack of funding. Masons aren't all rich. The Shriners, yes. General Masons, no. I'm not rich. It's actually not that expensive. Between Scottish Rite and Blue Lodge, I only pay a couple $100 a year for my dues. It's cheaper than a gym. It's more fun, too. But it's a combination of things. And Masons talk about this a lot, and there's really an issue with Masonry now about whether they should let in more people, and it's a question of quantity over quality. And they really do ask this question of, we'd rather close the lodge than admit people who are not worthy. They really do believe that. It's although some lodges are tempted to stay open because they just want to keep it going, and so they let in anyone that has the wrong intentions, and then they go do something stupid and give Masons a bad name, and it's an ongoing thing. One thing I hope to do is reignite a little bit of interest, because when you consider the hidden history of America and Hollywood and Disney, all these things I've just touched on, like I said before, you always think you know everything, but there's always more to learn. Masonry is the Grail quest. There's always more to learn. So, I don't know, I hope maybe some people will be interested, but I'm not going to change the way of the world. It's going to have to change itself. The Great Awakening, maybe Masonry will thrive, maybe it will fade. We shall see. It'll take some new form if it does. And it did a few hundred years ago. 1717 is when modern Freemasonry began, but the mystery schools go back thousands of years. So, we'll see what the next 100 years holds.
Yeah, sorry, I'm quiet. I'm trying to... I saw a question here, but Ron was saying something about tunnels under the Sphinx, which I'm sure there are.
Yes. There's another thing I channeled, actually. When I did my thesis at the American Film Institute a decade ago now, I made a 5th Indiana Jones script as part of it, and it opened with the Sphinx, because every Indiana Jones movie has to have an opening sequence that's kind of a throwaway little mini adventure, a James Bond throwaway opening. And I opened it with the Sphinx, and there's the legend Edgar Casey talks about, that the Hall of Records is underneath the left paw of the Sphinx, that he foresaw that back in his day, and then he said this chamber will be discovered in the 1990s and opened between 96 and 98. And it was opened in 97. It was found by John Anthony West, I think, in 93 with seismic. But that was just one chamber. But when I did my thesis, I imagined, well, what if there was this tunnel and this tunnel that branched off from there? And when Indiana Jones gets into the chamber, that's just the beginning. And then he's got to find his way underneath the labyrinth beneath the Sphinx. And then it turned out a few years ago that they found some tunnels as seismic returns, and it matched what I graphed out for my thesis presentation, including the hidden chamber in the Great Pyramid, if you've heard about that one recently. There's a second Grand Gallery above the known Grand Gallery, a cavity, a massive empty chamber in the Great Pyramid that they didn't know about until a couple years ago. But I put in my thesis work because I knew it was there. Or at least I dreamed it up. So there's all kinds of tunnels all over the Giza Plateau. They admit they've only excavated about 15% of the location, and that's with 200 years of excavation. So I'm sure there's a whole labyrinth underneath the Giza Plateau. I imagine what it'll be like 100 years from now. What more we'll know down there.
Mm-hmm. And sand is so enveloping and encompassing, and it's hard to get rid of. You get some out and some more pours in. Yep. It's a hard process. Trip was wondering... Oh, go ahead.
I would say the ancients, if they had a choice in the matter, they picked a good place to hide their secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what they said in Raiders of the Lost Ark about the city of Tanis being consumed by the desert.
It doesn't take much, just some wind. So Trip was wondering, what are your thoughts on why they are cutting special kids' vestigial tails off?
Say that again. Why are they cutting off special kids' what?
Vestigial or vestigial tails off?
I'd say any and all mutilation of any kids goes into that whole nasty. You drink Pepsi? Don't. You advised me in the break not to go there, so I'm avoiding it. But, children disappear too. It's all the same. They're satanic. Choppy, choppy, snippy, snippy. If I'm understanding the question right, maybe I'm not, but that's where my mind goes.
Yeah. Could have something to do with Mickey Mouse, and how generally, like, you see him, he doesn't have a tail.
Hey, does it have a symbolic ritualization? Are you talking about actual kids, or are we talking... Okay, I think I got the question totally wrong.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of explanation there, but let me scroll up and see if he said anything else. He also said there's reports of gray in that area, and I'm not sure if he's talking about Hollywood. Let me see if he said anything else. Oh.
Gray alien?
I believe so.
Oh, really? Is that what... Okay, then I need the question rephrased entirely, because that's not where I was taking my thoughts.
And Dave just came in. He's the weekday host and the founder of this station, and he drinks Pepsi all the time, and he's like, don't drink Pepsi? Blasphemy. Because every time you see him live, he's drinking a Pepsi. It's pretty funny.
I used to love Dr. Pepper, but I don't drink no more. I used to love Pepsi products. I understand they're so tasty.
And Bougie reiterated with Lodge 137's in Everett, Washington. Coincidence?
Oh, don't know. Never been to that lodge. Every lodge has a number, and they're really more or less random based on, what order they're opened. The name of the lodge is more to do with any intent, but they're really just... I've asked many brothers, like, why has this lodge got this name? Oh, they liked it. It's just really not much to do. Just identification. Where it is and what it is. Have you been to this lodge and you can remember easier? That's really all.
And Robert was wondering, in these visions or dreams or whatnot of the tunnels that you were talking about under the Sphinx, did you see what was inside the chamber?
I imagined it. It's not like I see it so much as I calculated. I thought, well, if there's a chamber beneath the Sphinx, then there must be these other tunnels, and I imagine they'd go something like this. And it turns out to be accurate. I speculate sometime I died, and maybe I'm just living in my own perfect little universe where everything I dream up comes true, because that seems to be what happens. Or maybe I'm just psychic and that's how it works. It's not like you visually see something. It's just like, this is the way it makes sense to me, and this is the way I feel it has to be. Like an artist, or when people have auto writing, they're just channeling a kind of, this is the way I feel it's supposed to go. Mm-hmm. Then it just works out for the best. So I calculated in a way that there should be more tunnels. As for what was in them, in my script, Indiana Jones was after half of not but very much like the Piri Reis map, the 1513 Turkish admiral map that showed the coastline of Antarctica beneath the ice. Because that's ultimately where I had Indiana Jones go to the finale of the film. But it was half of a map, so the movie's MacGuffin was to find the other half of the map, which I located in Cuba, another Atlantis-type place. But I think that there would be underneath the Sphinx, if there's one hall of records, then it's not just one room. They didn't just shove the best treasure into one little room. It's probably got a series of rooms with murals and, other treasures and ceremonial rooms where ancient people, the Atlanteans or somebody may have done. Maybe they've got strange... This is pure speculation, but actually it's based on... do you know about the Apis bull?
No, I'm not aware of that.
The Apis bull is this fearsome creature that the ancient Egyptians were terrified of, and we've allegedly found sarcophagi that contained its remains, and these are huge sarcophagi. They're like the size of a walk-in refrigerator. They're massive, and it's like allegedly contained a monster. And so maybe the Sphinx has something underneath that some treasure room we can't even imagine. I don't mean like treasure with gold and jewels stacked to the ceiling like in a movie, but well, maybe the Ark's down there, or maybe the Akashic records, or I'd like to find a collection of crystal skulls, or maybe just one crystal skull on a pedestal or something like that. That's what I would fancy.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Tripp reiterated on the whole THAL thing, and they're saying vestigial THAL, and he said occasionally a child is born with a soft THAL, described by one embryologist as containing no vertebrae, but blood vessels, muscles, and nerves of the same consistency as the short THAL of the Barbary ape. Modern procedures allow doctors to eliminate the THAL at birth, but some children have had to learn to live with them.
Well, I think they're genetic deformities, and people make superstitions about them. Like, if you have a unibrow, in the old days, they thought that was you were a werewolf. If you had a unibrow. Or if you were left-handed, then you were a witch. But if someone was born with a tail, unfortunate, but I could easily see where people would think you're the devil or something. And, yeah, I'd want it removed, but other people aren't going to have it removed, and that's their choice. I feel sorry for the kid going through school, imagine just dealing with that.
Yeah, and it's funny because my son was born with 6 fingers on his right hand, and we have a lot of Princess Bride stuff going on in here, and talking about, the man with the 6 fingers killed my father, and I was like, my son has 6 fingers, and the doctors were all over, like, we got to get this removed, and I'm just like, this is the way he was created, this is the way he was born, and it's his appendage. If later on in life he wants to remove it, I will do so, but if I remove it now, we're going to have to keep going in and removing the thing that tries to grow back, because it does. It continues to grow, and you have to go procedure after procedure after procedure. To me, he's perfect, and I couldn't imagine him any other way, and it's known as a genetic anomaly, not really a deformity. But yeah, it's pretty interesting how these things happen, and doctors are all over, well, let's remove it, I don't know. I was just kind of torn on that.
What's wrong with some variety in life? It's not hindering. It's not. One of my favorite celebrities, Dan Aykroyd, has webbed toes. It doesn't affect his life. He's happy to go on with life, and it's really just other people, the kids that'll give you the ridicule on the school ground and things like that. But
even if you don't have it, you still get bullied for stupid other reasons,
Human being what they are, but they call us crazy for believing in chemtrails too. So I think we now know just to ignore those people. But I'm sorry people give you any flack like that. It's just, but in and of itself, I think there's all kinds of variance in the human experience, and superstitious people will label them bad and do weird ritual things, want it reduced to normalcy. We can fix that for you. Well, maybe it doesn't need fixing.
Yeah, maybe he'll be like, some awesome baseball or basketball star in the future. Who knows? Like, he has use of this extra. He's got 2 thumbs on that hand. He's got use of it. He can grab things with it and everything, so I don't see a reason to cut it off. Were it just like a little nub or something that has no use, perhaps, but he can actually grab things, and it's shown through studies that if you do cut this off, it severs different tendons and nerves and other things, and it causes the hand to become weaker. So there's more cons than pros to doing this procedure, but the doctors are just like, let's cut it off right now. That's okay.
Things to be put back in their little convenient box-like view of things. Everything's got to be exactly the same. Uniformity. Uniformity is not what the human experience is meant for.
Yeah, it's overrated. And Tripp reiterated with the gray. He said a 3-foot gray has been seen in that area of Hollywood. Have you heard anything of that?
There are many weird entities in Hollywood, and I've often joked that the Men in Black need to open a branch in West LA, because as easily as you could hide aliens in New York, you could hide them in Hollywood. And I dare say that, now I don't know anything specifically about the 3-foot gray in modern times, but I referenced earlier the Devil's Gate, Pasadena incident, Parsons, Crowley, Hubbard, where they brought in Lam through a dimensional hole. Lam, the gray alien, as Crowley described it. And then I often talk about toons, meaning Roger Rabbit type. I don't mean literally. I mean, there are some weird presences in that town that I use the toons of Roger Rabbit as a very loose comparison to how I feel. You know, when Judge Doom at the end gets all creepy and gave everyone nightmares, you meet people that leave you feeling that way. Are they aliens? I wouldn't be surprised. And I don't mean that sarcastically. I mean, they hide everything else in plain sight. I know we've got to go to break soon, so I don't want to get all worked up, but yeah, there's aliens in that town from other dimensions, other worlds. I can't claim to have met them straight up, but I sense their presence. I can even confirm that. I would even get the big Men in Black board out and name some names. No, they're really not the people you'd think. They're more like the people in the studio, the friend of the studio guy who's just visiting on set. He's over there he's just watching the action from the sidelines, like the cigarette smoking man, Cancer Man in X-Files. Those types of people. I think, yeah, okay, that answered the question many different ways, I hope.
Yeah, and we have about 4 minutes before we go to break.
Oh, more. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything you want to ask, and I'll try and think of more examples.
Well, we didn't have any more questions on that. Bushi was saying, didn't they have rings in Mesopotamia? And Joe reiterated with Masons invented Mesopotamia. Any thoughts on that?
Well, Freemasons didn't invent Mesopotamia as such, because the Freemasons weren't really around by that name. Like I said, it only goes back to 1717, but before that there were the different mystery schools. They were always, I guess, in a way, the Masons, because the ancient secrets were those basic things like stone cutting, alchemy, metallurgy. Even the Sword and the Stone is partially based on that knowledge of secret societies, that the secrets of the making the metals. As far as founding Mesopotamia, that's going way back. I think my basic view of history is that 1,300 years ago, speaking of climate change, we have a natural precessional cycle, the Atlantean cycle, when the world goes a little nuts and some civilizations don't survive. And refugees from Atlantis went to the four corners of the earth and gave rise to our other civilizations like Mesopotamia, Babylon, Egypt, and then later on Greece, and so on and so forth. That's what I think. So the secret, there's always the mystery schools along the way. So I guess in a way the ancient equivalent of the Masons could have given rise to the civilization, because someone would have had to have preserved the secrets, the knowledge, the what they used to rebuild with. But that's so far back in antiquity, who can say for certain?
So Michael in SOR Space Travelers was wondering, is there a real Illuminati?
Again, I don't think there is by that name. There is a group But it's not even like a single group, like they all recognize each other as part of that group. They're a bunch of people that work together, like a bunch of free agents, like that get together on a movie. They just agree to do certain projects together because they're all in agreement. But I don't think they call themselves the Illuminati. Again, they might take it as a compliment. If you were to identify them and call them that, they would say they're illuminated, but they have their own names, their own little cliques. And I don't think altogether they can work together, which is why they're losing. They could consolidate power together. They could agree to screw people over together. But when it comes down to it, to be a team, they're all out for themselves. So divided, they will fall, as they are falling behind the scenes anyway. For example, I don't think that McCain, Crowley's illicit daughter, Barbara, or Nazi Herbert Walker mysteriously suddenly died. No, not at all. There's too much coincidence in that timing. They were either given a execution behind the scenes, or they slipped away to Argentina or something. They didn't just croak. No.
Well, here in about 10 seconds, we're going to break, and someone had mentioned, just like MKULTRA, the program isn't called that anymore, but does this kind of thing exist? I think only fools doubt it.
Yeah, it exists, just by different names.
Well, on that note, we're going to go to our second break. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rockin'. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot THAL. Come tune in to SOR, where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com, where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com, and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
Sit back, relax, grab a drink, and listen closely. Spaced Out Radio continues through the weekend. From the mile-high mountains of Colorado to you, listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Weekend with Tessa N Thomas.
That music intro always gets me pumped up. I always want to sing along with it. But I'm back here with Matt deMille. Matt, welcome back.
Welcome.
Welcome to SOR. And we're talking about conspiracies, and you know, everybody's grateful that we're asking their questions. And Michael was wondering, Matt, what are the strangest things that you have learned in researching these kinds of stories?
Time travel and manipulation of reality is something that can be taught. Everyone can access their DNA and Neo the Matrix, use the Force. You can do it. How's that? And everything is basically an illusion. It really is. I mean, you can break on through to the other side. You can. And I think that's what the 21st century culture that's going to make contact with Martians or anyone else is going to be expected to be at that level. To go from a stage 0 civilization to a stage 1 civilization on the scale of 0 to 3, we really need to hit that higher vibration. Conquest and mining for minerals on Mars is not what they're going to let us out for. They expect us to be a little more cosmically mature than that.
Indeed.
So everything else under that umbrella, UFOs, aliens, other dimensions, fairies and Sasquatch and ESP, all these things are real. It's a fascinating cosmos we live in. Or to borrow from Hamlet, there are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than your philosophy dreams of.
So the next, oh, go ahead.
All the world's a stage, a matrix by any other name. Or to borrow from, no, I shouldn't go there. I might offend someone, but I'm just thinking of the Monty Python singing, always look on the bright side of life.
That's right. Hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, the next one on my list, because I had to skip one because I cannot hit on that subject, but Hitler's escape and the rise of the Nazis. And, you know, they're talking about certain people trying to run the world, but then, let's see, Nazis from World War II are ensuring the world domination via mind control, chemicals, and the pharmaceutical industry. Many believe that Hitler did not die in Berlin and that the body found was that of his double, of which he had several. Many national newspapers actually claimed that at the time that he had escaped, but this fact has been removed with the passage of time. It is well documented that the vast majority of Nazis escaped and moved to the United States. Huge chemical factories such as IG Farben had experimented with chemical agents as a method of mind control during World War II, and one of the developed techniques was fluoride, which was used in concentration camps to suppress dissent. The escaped Nazis set up business fronts in America, which have grown powerful year on year as the legal rights of corporations have been increased, and they play a key role in the pharmaceutical industry, where substances are used to kill the creativity of individuals and keep them sick, such as antidepressants and certain kinds of painkillers. And on top of that, you know, they talk about, even on the History Channel, how Hitler came over to Argentina, and there's different facilities over there that actually kind of prove that.
All true. All true. I mentioned earlier how cannabis decalcifies your pineal gland of fluoride. That's why the Nazis put it in there. It was not just to keep people docile in the camps, but to cut off their spiritual connection to the cosmos. They knew what they were doing, the Vril Society and the Thule Society. Yes, Hitler did survive to Argentina. President Trump forced the CIA to release documents in 2017, including a photograph of him from 1955. Everyone down in Argentina knows it. It was common in the newspapers, oh, more Nazis coming down, but no one pays attention to Argentina media. Not in America. We're America. If it was going on, I'd know about it. Yeah, I learned that lesson in the early 90s studying UFOs. They were having UFOs all over Mexico City, but the American media was total blackout. It's like, what? Hey, I want to, again, that sighting show, that's where I learned about it. I'm like, hey, how come you're not covering this? The Nazis, like the Illuminati, the Bavarian Illuminati, you can destroy most of them, or like the Sith Lords, or like the Ring of Sauron. If you don't do a 100% thorough job, they will come back. And they, through Operation Paperclip, landing at the Montauk, Long Island, a lot of them went into the culture, into industry. And remember Hollywood, that's an industry. And they've been trying ever since. Herbert Walker Bush, son of Prescott Bush, who would have stood trial at Nuremberg if not for creating the USO goodwill tour for the military. Trump's fortune might come from the Montauk project, maybe, but the Bush fortune comes from funding the Nazis and supplying them with oil and steel up through 1945. Yeah, the Nazis have the CIA is a Nazi organization. NASA is a Nazi organization. Those are big front companies for the Nazis. Yeah, they're still around. And never forget that is the key word there. National Socialism is what the Third Reich believed in. Not a lot of difference between that and socialism in China or Soviet Russia. It's still not capitalism. They still fought each other, sure, but they're all pawns of the larger evil. Sauron, the Sith Lords, the real masters of the world, like the Black Jesuit Pope or the Rothschilds, these people. They find countries like Saruman or Rohan to fight with each other. And China is the one they've elected recently to be the model for the empire. Because Germany didn't work out. Germany was one more victim along with the British and the They've tried to turn America into that Nazi machine. They're failing miserably now. Again, why they hate Trump so much. If we had not to get too political, but if Hillary was in office, she had already sold everything to China. That was our fate. Our computer codes, if you have Apple, not good. They have all your codes now. Hollywood, they love Apple. You're not allowed to use anything else. Intellectual properties, business industry secrets, military secrets. Yeah. But if China's defeated and the New World Order is not totally destroyed, if 50 years from now they'll rise, maybe they'll come out of Australia or something. They'll find some new. The ring will find a way to come back to its master.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in the 1950s and 60s, there was a widespread fear that water fluoridation was a plot by communists to weaken the capitalist public. And supposedly fluoridation was brought in to protect against dental cavities. But it's said that the real reason behind fluoridation is not to benefit children's teeth, and they won't even let you use this in, your baby's formula. They ask you to use different water because they know the harms behind it. But they're saying if this were the real reason, there are many ways in which it could be done that are much easier, cheaper, and far more effective. The real reason behind water fluoridation is to reduce the resistance of the masses to domination and control the loss of liberty. They were told of this entire scheme by a German chemist who was an official of the great IG Farben chemical industries and was also prominent in the Nazi movement at the time. They say this was all the earnestness and sincerity of a scientist who has spent nearly 20 years research into the chemistry, biochemistry, physiology, and pathology of fluorine. Any person who drinks artificial fluorinated water for a period of 1 year or more will never again be the same person mentally or physically.
Avoid fluoride at all costs. Many years ago, I think about 6 years ago is when I learned enough about it to say, okay, I'm done with this toothpaste. I use a non-fluoridated toothpaste that I used to get at a health store until Bezos bought it. But now I got to find another source. But how do you control dosage when you're drinking it? Don't I brush my teeth? It's all a scam. I have brushed my teeth with fluoridated toothpaste all my life, and I have a pretty lousy dental record. I got almost British teeth. Even though I use fluoride, it actually probably did more harm than good. Get that fluoride out of it. Just don't even touch it. Consider fluoride like cigarettes. If you haven't started, don't start. If you're doing, stop. And sorry to any cigarette smokers, but you get the example. It's just, where's the good in it? I use a non-fluoridated toothpaste. It's much better. That stuff used to make me gack. I mean, I would brush my teeth with Aquafresh or something, and I'd damn near throw up, just because it was toxic. My body was rejecting it. Natural processes were saying, get this stuff out of here. Yeah, they want to cut you off they want to dumb you down mentally and spiritually. They want to cut you off.
Yeah, and it's true that the body refuses to assimilate it. And also worth noting is that recent studies have unequivocally confirmed that children who drink fluoride have lower IQs than those whose water is not fluoridated. And many studies have also confirmed that it is ineffective in preventing cavities. So makes you scratch your head and wonder, what exactly is our government doing?
Well, you can check your municipality and see if they fluoridate the water. Apparently 2/3 of the country does so. But maybe you're in the lucky 1/3. If not, buy a bottled water that you check out the brand. Half of them are good, half of them are not. And you can always buy one of those water filters. I mean, there's all those conspiracy shows are always offering those water filters. I've used one before. I actually bought an Alex Jones water filter like 6 years ago. It was actually not bad. I just got too lazy and didn't want to keep cleaning it, but they're actually pretty good for getting the fluoride out of your tap water or whatever your source may be. And it's worth the investment. Once you get your system clean, other recommendations I'd get, remember, other things you eat, if you buy them, are made with fluoridated water. Like if you go to the fast food place and you get the soda pop, well, that's made with fluoridated water. You don't think they cleanse their water, do you? Purify it or filter it? No. Any restaurant. So when you buy soda pop, it's made, you think they bother taking the fluoride out of the water, the base water? No. So for other reasons as well, sugar, processed white sugars. It's as addictive as cocaine, and it's almost as destructive. Get rid of fast food and soda pop and fluoride, and you'll feel your body just be purged. You'll feel younger. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
You'll need less sleep. You'll be less irritable. You get sick less often. You're just healthier in general, physically, mentally, spiritually. Get all those toxins out.
Moving on to the next subject. The next one on my list was the rule of the reptiles. And given that this is a rather nebulous theory, there are many strands and variants of reptilian rule theory. This far-out theory was brought to the public awareness through conspiracy theorist David Icke. As the theory goes, thousands of years ago, reptiles blended their DNA with ours, not physically, but through DNA manipulation. Allegedly, this is why humans have certain reptilian functions associated with their actions and instincts. Most of the planetary leaders are said to be reptilian humanoids, or possessed by them. These reptiles come from the Alpha Draconis star system and currently live in underground bases on planet Earth. Popular reptiles are said to include George Bush and Queen Elizabeth. In February 2011, on the Opie and Anthony radio show, comedian Louis C.K. jokingly asked former U.S. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld a number of times if he and Dick Cheney were lizard people who enjoyed the taste of human flesh. Amused by Rumsfeld's refusal to directly answer the question, C.K. suggested it is possible admission of guilt. He went on to further amuse that perhaps those who are lizard people cannot lie about it. When asked if they are lizards, they either have to avoid answering the question or say yes. A surprisingly large number of American individuals are said to believe in the reptilian theory, up to 4% of registered voters, according to one poll. But then I was reading about natives earlier, the Zunings, which are descendants of like the Anasazi or Puebloans, and I was checking out their kachinas and the different dress they use in their dance, and one of their kachinas was a reptilian with its tongue hanging out. It was pretty intriguing.
As I said in the beginning, more is true than not. Not all of that, I would say, is true, but more than people would like to think is. First of all, there are reptilian aliens, absolutely. Whether they're masquerading as our leaders, I'll get to that. That's a different story. But yes, there are reptilian aliens. They've been reported so much in so many different circles throughout history, but even in the ufological age of the 1940s, 50s onward, I love a story from Area 51. I forget who told it, some worker. It might have been Lazar, but it was a story from Area 51 where one of the workers there was a reptilian alien there that they were working with, and you don't mess with them because they're physically powerful enough to just kill you, like the equivalent of an ape or a gorilla. They're like that strong. But it came into the room and it was just upset, and it just needed some turpentine or antifreeze or something, some chemical that it liked to drink like beer, and it just downed a whole can of antifreeze and went back to work. And it's like, you want to think it's a totally made up story, but you hear enough of those things, and the Greys are here. I mean, I've seen entities, and they come in all varieties. Why not reptilians? So I have no problem believing that there are reptilian aliens, and have been through history. David Icke, I've listened to a lot of David Icke. Not recently, but years ago, I did listen to a lot of his stuff. He's well researched, and people called him crazy when he was making claims about, say, the British royals and their habits back in the early 90s, but all that proved to be true. Reptilians, don't know about that, but he talked a lot about the aliens in South Africa, the Chitauri, and those turned out to be real in a way. Even the Avengers made him the villain. One of those things Hollywood likes to tell you about, make you think it's fantasy, but it's actually real. Reptilians, though, I think when it comes to human beings being reptilians in disguise, that's more coming out of They Live with Roddy Piper. It's more of like the ancient gods in a way, were not necessarily literal characters, but they were personifications of ideals. They were storytelling vessels. I think somewhere along the line, the aliens, and whether they're physically real or not, and the reptilian part of the human brain, somewhere the story got a little mixed up. I mentioned Excalibur earlier, being there's many swords. I mean, there's one in a lake, and then there's one in a stone. Well, it's different swords that became one over time, alchemically in a legend. And it was about keeping secrets as well. But then that became a literal magical sword. Did the reptilian part of our brain, or manipulation by actual aliens, lead to the mythology of a reptilians having, being humans in disguise? Or could they really be doing that? I will never rule that out. I've been wrong before. But I think what you're dealing with is people that are influenced by non-human entities, dark entities, even non-physical entities. I dare say devils, shadows, toons. I don't know what you call them. And people can be possessed, yes, become a meat puppet for these things. But can they rip off their face and reveal a lizard skin underneath? I haven't seen that, so I'll say no. But if I were to see it, I'd say, all right, okay, checkbox that one. Wouldn't surprise me. Certainly aliens do walk amongst us in disguise. There are some, look at the Men in Black themselves. Not all of those can be accounts of humans. They're too weird. Anyway, so I'm rambling. I hold out the possibility. But definitely politicians and celebrities and others are manipulated by non-human entities.
Yeah, there was this video I was watching not too long ago about this newscaster, and she was doing a report, and she blinked, and you see this kind of reptilian eye and like the double lens going on. That was pretty interesting. But with all of the stuff out there where you can manipulate videos, it's hard to believe what's real and what's not.
Well, there's also a simple matter of video distortion with that, and having spent a lot of time in computer video editing bays in Hollywood, the thing that's possible, but the thing about it, I looked at that eye thing years ago. It only happens with the eyes. And a question I have that's somewhere in between, in a new dimension, new perspective on this. Maybe it's not a reptilian in disguise, but maybe it's not a digital glitch either. Maybe it's like accounts of vampires or ghosts. If you try and capture them on film, it distorts the film. Maybe there's something in the eyes of the possessed that doesn't quite read properly for similar reasons. You ever see the movie The Ring, where the little girl crawls out of the TV? You know, how people, early in that movie, anyone that was caught on camera, their face was distorted? Maybe it's something like, maybe they're not literally, maybe it's more a possession. That's just a theory, a possibility. But the distortion only seems to be limited to the eyes. Why doesn't it go down the face? Why isn't the mouth distorted? Why isn't the ear distorted? Why isn't the jewelry distorted? Solid round objects, someone on their necklace, easy to identify. No, it's only the eyes that get weird.
Yeah, and on this particular video, the guy was actually like, I don't know if he had Dish Network or something where it's recording as it's playing, and he was able to go back and with his cell phone, he's like, you got to see this, and replayed it several times, and it was pretty interesting. But why isn't, like you said, like the tongue or other things coming out, and it's always in the eyes, but they say the eyes are like the window of the soul, so maybe it's the most telling portion of this person being reptilian and trying to seem or remain human.
That is a possibility. That is a possibility. Stranger things have happened.
So true. Well, the next one on my list was global warming is a myth. And the fourth report of the IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, might just as well decree the suppression of all climatology textbooks and replace them in our schools with press communiques. Day after day, the same mantra that the Earth is warming up is churned out in all its forms. As the ice melts and the sea level rises, the apocalypse looms ever nearer. Without realizing it, or perhaps without wishing to, the average citizen, in bamboozled or lobotomized and lulled into mindless acceptance, non-believers in the greenhouse scenario are in the position of those long ago who doubted the existence of God. And that was said by Marcel Leroux.
I was going to say a similar thing, actually. Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, it was saying such a controversial topic had to make the top 10 conspiracy theories. To briefly sum up the main points, the numbers of the global warming myth, the idea behind global warming is that the surface of the Earth is heating up too rapidly due to burning fossil fuels, an event which is unprecedented in ordinary times. In 1997, Vice President Al Gore signed a petition called the Kyoto Protocol in Japan, which aimed to ration U.S. energy production in order to reduce carbon emissions amid fears of global warming. In response to this, an online petition was conducted which stated that over 31,000 scientists signed a petition indicated that global warming was not real, and over 9,000 of these scientists had PhDs. There were multiple criticisms of this petition, including that many names were duplicates and that many of the so-called PhDs could not be verified. In other words, it was claimed to be a hoax. However, this is not quite proven. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC, is the most reputable body on climate change. It consists of hundreds of scientific experts from various nations. The IPCC does not do its own research, but instead aggregates all the published literature on climate change, both peer-reviewed and non-peer, then creates reports based on all the published literature. The findings are that there is a 95% chance that humans are responsible for global warming, and that carbon dioxide levels are higher than they have been in the last 800,000 years. I don't know. It says that the IPCC is an internationally accepted authority. It is made of independent volunteers who are not paid for their services. Multiple studies on peer-reviewed journals show that there is 97% consensus among climate change experts that global warming is real and is a result of human activity. However, as with all such topics, the numbers are heavily debated, and there is always a counter-argument. Though the 97% is cited, often many claim that in such studies only 5% were actually climate change experts, and that the studies themselves are selective. All the samples are around 100 to 200 scientists. Further, numerous scientists whose papers are used in these studies claim that their work has been misrepresented, and thus this figure is cited as more credible. However, it would seem from the numbers that online petition is a more potent indicator given the numbers if the participants in fact climate scientists. We have two extremes, and it is difficult to examine which one is actually true without getting into the climate science and statistical models, but it is safe to say there is far more global warming than the 97% figure generally taken as fact. I don't know. There's a lot of different things going on, as well as the shift in the polar north and south.
There are a lot of long words there. I'm not but a humble pirate.
Arr!
Let me just, instead of trying to analyze every line of that, that's a lot to remember, I'll just comment on global warming, if I may. I can remember being in high school in 1991 when our teachers were making the big, oh, we burned out the ozone layer, and, you know, and Al Gore, and the kids are never going to see snow. By 2010, the polar ice caps are going to be gone, and you're all going to be living underground. What year is it? The world has cycles. Big cycles, medium cycles, small cycles. We are entering a big cycle now. The Atlantean cycle, the precessional 13,000-year cycle. We've had smaller cycles on the way. That had nothing to do with industry. We've had a few mini ice ages along the way. Half of Europe froze just a few hundred years ago. During the Middle Ages, the time of the Crusades and such, we had a warming time. And this didn't have anything to do with pollution, unless the cows farting has really something to do with it. But
right.
What happened? One of the many secrets are kept by the elite, not just UFO technology, not just secrets of rituals or sacred geometry, frequencies and vibrations, also historical patterns. They've known that this time is coming for some time, and so they have prepared for it, and in true government fashion, they tell you the opposite of the truth. They told you man-made climate change bad. As that article brought up, it's the new religion. You can't convince people that the devil made them do it, so they all got to put their money in the collection plate. You can't do that anymore. You can with some people, but not with the general masses. They've upgraded it. Now, instead of you're born with original sin, oh, you're polluting the earth. You need to give Al Gore carbon taxes. And everyone else. And then they pass all these laws. Al Gore, vice president, in the big club, knows his job like everyone else. Sign these that we tell you to sign. And it fits the larger pattern of over-regulating the United States, crippling economy. China doesn't have any regulations. They can do what they want. Tips everything in their favor for decades. They take all the money. They take all the power. America's playing the game with a handicap because they got biased referees, so to speak. They've used what was going to happen inevitably to cash in and control. China's building... They have built railways out to parts of African desert. Everyone's like, why did you do that? Because they knew the lakes were coming back, because this happened hundreds of years ago, and the lakes are coming back. They knew where to strike blue gold, because they've kept this secret of these cycles. Global warming is just how they sold it to people. And now they've changed it to climate change. Climate's always changing. They say the science is settled. That's an oxymoron. Science is never settled. That's why it's science. It's always asking questions. Science was settled in the 1890s when they closed the patent office because everything to be invented has already been invented. There's no more need for a patent office.
Right.
The science is not settled. There's so many factors not taken into account. I love these meteorologists and weathermen that talk about the climate, and they never mention chemtrails or geoengineering or HAARP. Shouldn't you factor those into your calculations too? They do have an effect. No, they don't. So I think that the planet is going through its inevitable cycles, and Mother Nature is going to do what it's always done. We're in for a rough ride. We're in for a new ice age. But the powers that be are going to claim that it's your fault so they can get money and control out of you. And they'll jazz it up in any religious way they can. And people nowadays think, well, I'm not superstitious. I'm scientific. The science is settled. Climate change. They told me. They got officials that declared themselves officials that know better than I do because they said so. And says who? We were told that we were going to be living underground a decade ago. Didn't they just have a snowfall over in the desert? Some refugee camp over in Iraq or something just got a record snowfall. It's like, what? We had snow on the pyramids, on the Sphinx back in 2012. We had snow in Hawaii over the summer this last year. Global warming?
Well, yeah, and, with global warming, they say to every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. For the warming, you have the ultra cooling, which, there's been snow in so many places that I've even seen this year that generally they don't get any snow, and they're like, what the crack is going on? So it's pretty interesting to watch what the world is doing. A lot of things I've heard is perhaps, there is this natural thing that goes on with the Earth and its cycles and whatnot, but they're saying that it's moving particularly fast.
It's accelerating. Well, what's going on is the solar system. It's the sun. Every planet in the solar system is experiencing climate change right now. The thing on the North Pole of Saturn keeps changing. It's the sun is going through cycles, and we just have to be affected by it. And we have things internally, like water reservoirs in the planet, that some of them drain and some of them fill elsewhere. And that when the planet gets this surge of energy, everything moves around a little bit. I shouldn't be surprised to see continents not literally shift, because that would just kill everybody, but the planet and the magnetic pole keep tilting faster. They keep changing numbers at airports. Further north you go, they have to keep changing the numbers on the runways and things because the magnetics are changing. But you notice how, like up here in western Pacific Northwest, it doesn't rain so much anymore. It doesn't snow ever anymore. It's actually getting more like Southern California up here. Whereas, the Middle East is getting snow. So in another 10 or 20 or 100 years, maybe the equilibrium will settle and we'll have a completely, what was prime real estate now is not going to be 50 years from now. Everything's changing. Some will be colder, some will be warmer.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually read an article the other day that was saying that the poles are shifting, and which had happened when there was that earthquake in Japan. They actually shifted. I don't know if it was 10 degrees or 10%, but they shifted a little bit when that happened. And now something going on with what's going on under the earth as far as the metals and everything flowing. It's actually shifting some more. And like you were saying, the snow and everything here in Colorado, we weren't getting snow for years except for on the peaks. But this year we're getting some really good snow. So it's just interesting how the weather's working, how the, what do they call it? The jet streams are working and changing, and different random things are happening. But, how can you really figure out what's going on? And as far as the ozone layer goes, there's even Harvard's doing things where they're taking balloons up there and releasing different gases with diamond dust and all kinds of different things that are supposed to rebuild the ozone layer. Supposedly it's working, but if you put too much out there, it's going to cause a lot of natural disasters, and it makes you wonder, is it because of the things they're doing in,
It's like chemo to cancer. It cures disease. What if we said, oh, we got some ozone depletion, let's do chemtrails? You ever see Highlander 2? As horrible a movie as Highlander 2 was, let's build a shield, and then we'll just darken the world. We're actually experiencing global darkening, global dimming. Things are getting a little bit darker around the world, maybe because it's of all the chemicals we put in the air to shield us from the sun. We made it worse. Possibly.
Yeah, if you get the right amount, it's okay. You do too much, then all this, disasters are happening as far as natural disasters. It's pretty intriguing.
As with cancer, we need to cure it more naturally from within, not externally, mechanically. That's like if you have a pain, you take a few aspirin. Okay, but if you ate the whole bottle, you're going to kill yourself. Better not to get sick in the first place, or not get hurt in the first place, or heal naturally if you can. Nutrition and not chemical. But what's the solution to government spending? Oh, hey, boss, we got this way to fix this problem. No problem. We'll just put some, chemtrails up there and, okay, keep doing that. We need more funding. Decades later.
Yeah.
And then how do you turn it off? Well, it's been turned, I don't know about down there, but it's been turned off up here. We got chemtrails almost every day for years, but when Trump took office, they disappeared. I was filming them all the time, but now they're gone.
Yeah, I still take pictures of them here, and also when I go down to Phoenix, Arizona, I take pictures of them there. They're still down here, but you were saying last time you were on, they're not there anymore.
We get them once in a while, like maybe once a month, and only on a high solar day. Like when there's white sunlight, not the good old-fashioned yellow sunlight we grew up with. And I think what happened is the sun is going through its cycles, and the ancients knew this, and the people inside the occult and the high military, the big club, knew this. Chemtrails were a way potentially to block it, but it did more harm than good. But when, like I said, it gets carried away with the funding, it's like, oh, this could be a solution, but then just in every government way, just keep doing it. Trump comes in and says, only when necessary, we're saving money, I'm cutting your funding. So we get them only on days now where there is like really microwave type hot white unnatural sunlight, and then the chemtrails are up there, but never any other time. And our weather is going back to normal. We're getting rain again. I wonder if the years without snow in Colorado, you had more heavy chemtrailing because it dries everything out. That's also why California burned so much, so readily. It was made ready for HAARP and directed energy weapons because it was all dried out from all the chemtrails for years. It's a high-tech siege of Fortress Minas Tirith, America. They got high-tech weapons and spells and catapults to breach our walls and break us.
Yeah, and Vivian was saying plenty of chemtrails here in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. So they are still going on in different places, but I guess they're just changing with perhaps the jet stream or whatever's going on.
I think in all Western-speaking countries, it's funny how if they're caused by airplanes, they never happen in Russia, they don't happen in these powers that defy the New World Order. They happen in Australia, they happen in Canada, and the United States, and England, and Europe, or Britain and Europe. So basically, all the NATO countries, all the Bilderberg countries, all the Illuminati countries, and how come they don't happen in other countries if they're caused by airplanes? So Canada, Trump doesn't have jurisdiction there, so they're going to keep doing what the big club tells them to do up there.
Well, the next thing on my list was free energy, and Tesla said electric power is everywhere, present in unlimited quantities, and can drive the world's machinery without the need for coal, oil, gas, or any other of the common fuels. And the idea behind free energy emanates primarily from the work of Nikola Tesla, which I really love that guy. He's awesome. Proponents believe that Tesla had the blueprints for free energy, but it was suppressed by the oil barons. And there have been many discoveries since his work that suggest free energy is available, but is actively suppressed by the elites. There are many free energy ideas available online. If energy was free, it would result in individual empowerment, as nobody would need to rely on oil or other sources of energy and would be richer on the whole. Scientists such as Wilhelm Reich, Lord Kelvin, Baron Karl von Reichenbach, Nikola Tesla, John Keely, Victor Schauberger, Thomas Henry Morey, James Maxwell, and John Searle, among many others, are reported to have discovered free energy. Their findings are said to have been systematically suppressed, which I believe.
Absolutely. The whole story, with the exoteric, and then another story I can add. The barons back in the day, a century ago roughly, oh yeah, they couldn't have Tesla. They couldn't have free energy any more than they could have cannabis and free thought. They had to suppress everything. And they got a Hearst and Rockefeller and all those guys, yeah. Judge Doom shutting down the Los Angeles red car so he could build the freeway. That was Hearst with his... or the oil barons. No, we can't have hemp cars, Mr. Ford. We can't have hemp biofuel. No, we got to have oil. And make everyone use it. Drive our cars. Yeah, but what goes deeper, I think, with the repression of energy. Now, I might lose people here for a moment, but playing devil's advocate. This is, I think, what they actually believe, what the big club actually believes. Evil people don't think they're evil. They find some way to justify what they're doing, right? They vindicate themselves somehow. I think these people see a problem on planet Earth where we overpopulate, and they hold humanity back, and conveniently they benefit. Yeah, the addict justifying their habit. But they might have a point. What if Tesla gave free energy to everyone 100 years ago? How fast would we overwhelm the planet? Well, we had free energy, we'd get into outer space. Yeah, but would we have been ready on a cosmic consciousness level? Having gone through the shamanistic process of having my life destroyed, kind of like Doctor Strange losing his hands and then finding a whole nother path, I think humanity might have to go through that. Maybe fighting the Illuminati, maybe realizing we ought to break our chains and cast down these false idols and these masters and find freedom as a species is part of the process. Not the Illuminati's intention. The villain wants to win, but they ultimately lose. But I think that they think they're doing humanity a favor by holding us back until we're ready. Ironically, their doing that is what will make us ready. And then now we can get free energy because we'll be able to use it perhaps more effectively more responsibly than we would have a century ago. We still had a few world wars to go through. Do we really want free energy on the loose then? Oh, what would World War II have looked like with laser guns and time machines? That would have been nasty. But we're there now, but we've got a century to learn from our mistakes. Maybe we can handle free energy now. Not saying that's the Illuminati's intention. They never want us to have it. But evil undoes itself.
Yeah, there's this little town in Colorado that is in between Rico, Colorado, and Telluride, and they actually have a Tesla plant there, and it's a small community, and it's actually run off of this Tesla plant. And so I went up there poking around one night, and people are curious because they're like, wow, I don't recognize this vehicle, but you see all these houses lit up and everything seems to be running awesomely and properly. And then, it's like, why doesn't the rest of the world have this? And then I have a friend of mine, Sadra, and her husband, and he actually had a car that ran off of water and had like a torch that ran off of water as well, and they brought it over a few times for me to check out. And that was pretty amazing to me. Just the different energies that are out there where you don't really have to use fossil fuels or oil. And Trip in the chat room was saying, or Ford allowed to use hemp oil. Like, there's a truck around town that runs off of old fryer grease from like McDonald's. You can smell the French fries, but the truck's running around,
You can get your car converted to burn waste vegetable oil. Some people in LA have done that. Also, back to Bob Lazar, mentioned him earlier. Bob Lazar, like a decade ago, Mr. Area 51 UFO scientist, he created a hydrogen drive. Hydrogen, the most common element in the universe, really. And he, just a simple little hydrogen distiller that you could put in your garage, and so your car would have fuel that you get out of the air. You would never need to go to a gas pump again. And they came in and shut him down. The sunglasses paid him a visit like they did decades earlier with Area 51. Not you again, causing us more trouble, are you? Yeah, they buy up these alternatives, they buy the patents, or they threaten them, and then they seal them away, never to be seen again. There's dozens of alternative fuels out there, and the Big Bear and the Big Club will never let them out. Like there's cures for all sorts of diseases, and they never... You notice how the elites never die from disease? It's extreme old age or convenient timing. Yeah, they got cures. They don't share with the profane, with the masses.
And it's really sad what they did to Tesla. They, killed his livelihood as well as his, I want to say personality, but there's another name for it. They just killed him altogether, and so he was reclused up in a hotel room or whatever with his crates and crates and crates of ideas and different things that he had built. Well, once he died, you only find 3 crates left, and they wouldn't even let people in for quite an extended amount of time. And once they were able to go in, there's only these 3 crates left, and then the rest of them are taken. And then you see these different things coming out in which he had created in the first place. It's pretty sad.
You ever see The Prestige, the film? With Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale?
No, I tried to look it up on Netflix. I couldn't find it. I might have to...
You know what it's about. It's a couple of rival stage magicians in the late 19th century in London, and in desperation, one of them goes to Nikola Tesla to get a special machine made to do the duplicating man, or the transported man, and they start to deal with this electromagnetic technology and twisting time-space. And I won't spoil the movie for you, but there's a wonderful scene where Michael Caine, who's also in the film, is overseeing some of Tesla's old boxes. They're in a warehouse, and he's like, no, this one machine is... Oh, no, it wasn't Tesla's. It was his magician master stuff, but it was bought from Tesla, and he's like, this is real. This isn't a trick. This man built machines that, wizards can... He's a real wizard. What other people think is a trick, he made real. There's a lot about Tesla in the movie. It's just a wonderful show. David Bowie plays Tesla, of all people. But it's, yeah. And Uncle John Trump was one of those people overseeing those boxes. Funny about how all that works out.
Yeah, it's really sad, and could you imagine where we'd be today had we been able to use that technology instead of them killing his character as well as his livelihood? There's so many things that we could be doing, and we could all be wealthier instead of spending all this money on electricity and fossil fuel and natural gas and so much things that we have to pay for. It's just insane.
Pay for what they replaced much idol worship with, those little Federal Reserve notes that everyone covets so much. Money is God to so many people that they have their new form of control. Will the Federal Reserve go down? That seems to be Trump's latest target. Well, not his target. Remember, the rebellion. That's the monster that's the dragon to be slain to set us free from the money machine. But then the technology, if we're responsible with it, I mean... I've had the ability to do some weird things, and there is that instant responsibility of should you. I'm not saying I want humanity to be held back, quite the opposite. I want to set them free. But we can't just explore the technology. We have to have the discipline for it. If we could suddenly grow food everywhere, and we could have vehicles flying everywhere, we're going to make mistakes with that too. We're going to overdo it. We're going to take too much medicine from the bottle. It'll handle itself like the cycles of the earth. Water will find the lowest point. Things will work out. Like I can't change the world on my own, like I said earlier, but if I had advice for the world, I would say master yourself and set an example. And that'd be the best way. And once we get that technology, once that natural process plays out of a more mature society and they release more technology to us, the 21st century has such amazing possibilities. Such amazing possibilities. Those people that want to keep us in bondage, that want to keep us in the dark 20th century of politics as usual and buy this and worship that. F that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And like you said, it's all about the almighty dollar, which I believe is the root of all evil. And keeping us in bondage, Eat all your vegetables so we can grow strong and fight tyranny and oppression,
Go fight another bankers' war, another police action. Yeah. Go get your limbs blown off for the Rothschilds. Not what the human experience was meant for.
No, there's so much more to it, and this way that they have us living is keeping us from really living the human experience the way that we should. We're busy working and not being able to spend time with our kids and loved ones and trying to pay bills, and people are having to work multiple jobs just to try to keep up with the pace of the world as we see it these days, and it's just pretty ugly and sad. I hate to see it, but it is the way it is.
We're in the fight. A few generations, and perhaps inevitably, we're at this time of testing. The ancients did foresee it thousands of years ago. So maybe it was inevitable, but it is the challenge before the world now, this generation, this evil. Not just a conventional war, but a spiritual war. To find a better way, rather than relying on the old ways of avarice and fame and fortune and glory. False pursuits.
Creeping up on our last minute here. So, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners in this last 30 seconds?
Well, check out my YouTube channel, I guess. Matt deMille on YouTube. It's my real name. I don't have any other websites. I cover a lot of things there. I have various playlists of various kinds, and feel free to enter Wonka's land and go around and sample and taste whatever you want.
Very nice. And they can also find you on Facebook as well, is that true?
Yeah, I guess, but I don't really check it much. It's really just kind of like I use it for a phone. If someone needs to chat, it's a way I can be reached. But I don't really post anything there anymore. I want to keep a bit of a low profile. Facebook is, the digital book burners are out in force these days.
Right. Well, thank you so much for being my guest once again this evening. It was so wonderful having you on the show again.
Well, thank you again for having me. It is very flattering to be asked back once, much less twice. So I only wish I could say more and had more time and could answer more questions.
Well, we'll just have to have you back again.
Oh, I won't say no.
That's awesome. All right, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone in Spaced Out Radio, Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Paranormal Radio, TalkStream Live, Deep Talk Radio, and wherever else in the universe you are listening tonight. I had a wonderful time. Oh, hold on. Go ahead.
And may the source be with you.
That's right. May the source be with you. And I had a wonderful time this evening, and it was my pleasure, literally and figuratively, and I can't wait to do it again tomorrow night on Spaced Out Radio at spacedoutradio.com. Until next time, nighty-night, love and light to all my space cases out there, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your, well, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday, could be Monday in some parts of the world, and I'll see you all back here tomorrow night. Don't forget, we are all in this together. Together we can make the world a little better, and together, my friends, we rule the night. I hope to see you guys at the SOR Asylum After Party, which is on Skype, and you can get a hold of us at the after party at 970-335-9596, 970-335-9596. You guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Don't have too much fun, and if you do, make sure you name it after me. I'll talk to you guys later. Take care of my yous. Bye-bye.